Take your seats. Oh, great. Thanks. What about you and Paul?
Well, that's us.
Oh, okay. Is it just you and Paul who are staying?
No.
There are still some people streaming in. We'll just wait about 30 more seconds before we get underway. Those of you who are not already seated, please take your seats. In your assigned seats, by the way. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Town meeting members, town officials, guests, and Shrewsbury Cable viewers at home, good evening. My name is Christopher Mena, and it is my privilege to serve as your moderator for this special town meeting. Before we begin the formal part of the meeting, we have two public service announcements. The first one will be made by our selectman, John LeBeau.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Town meeting members, speaking on behalf of my colleague on the Farmers Market Steering Committee, Missy Hollenbach, who can't be with us this evening. She asked that we announce that the Farmers Market will be closed tomorrow due to anticipated heavy and hard rain and logistic issues at Ski Ward. But the Farmers Market will return for two more sessions on the 8th and the 15th down at Ski Ward from 2 to 5:30. And Missy also asks me to promote the on-site pumpkin carving event. You buy your pumpkin at the market, we provide all the tools, and the pigs and the chickens get the seeds and the gunk. You know I didn't come up with that language. So that's the announcement regarding the farmers market. Unfortunately, it is going to be canceled tomorrow.
Thank you, John. And another public service announcement: I've been asked by representatives of the Shrewsbury Rotary Club to let you know, if you did not notice, the two ladies, members of Rotary, out in the lobby selling calendars for 2015. I happen to have one right here to show you. The Rotary Club is selling commemorative calendars for 2015, a tribute to Anthony Spag Borgatti Jr. It's a terrific little calendar. It costs you $10. It's got some really great pictures of the life and career of Spag and Olive Borgatti, and 100% of the proceeds from the sale of this calendar will go back to the community in a variety of ways. So if you have an extra $10 in your pocket, please go out and buy one, and if you don't, please order one, and I'm sure they'll set one aside for you. Okay, I'm advised by the town clerk that we have a quorum. So accordingly, the special town meeting of September 30th, 2014 is hereby called to order. I have examined the warrant and the constable's return of service, and both are in order. I ask for your unanimous consent to dispense with the reading of the warrant and the constable's return. Hearing no objections, it is so voted unanimously. Next, with the tellers seated in the auditorium, please raise your hands. And folks, if you look back and see where the raised hands are, would all town meeting members please come forward and take your seats in front of the tellers if you are not already seated in front of the tellers. And if there are any individuals who are not elected town meeting representatives and who do not have my specific permission to be seated in the front of the tellers, please move to the seats behind the tellers. Okay, everyone's in their seats. I now invite you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing after the pledge for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for just one moment, please, to honor the memory of two longtime public servants who have left us since we were last together at the annual town meeting in May. Michael Campanello, who passed away on May 23rd of this year, just a few days after we ended our annual town meeting, wore many hats during his long tenure as a public servant in Shrewsbury. Mike represented his neighbors in Precinct 5 as a town meeting member from 1971 until this year. He was an appointed member of the Shrewsbury Housing Authority and the Masonic Property Study Committee in the 1970s, an elected member of the school committee from 1985 to 1990, an appointed member of the Finance Committee from 1992 to 2001. Mike successfully combined his expertise as an electrical contractor with his interest in education through his involvement in the construction of Bay Path Regional Vocational Technical High School, where he later served as the school's Director of Vocational Education, and Blackstone Valley Regional Vocational Technical High School, where he served as the Facilities Manager. Mike's sons, Paul and David Campanello, are continuing their father's tradition of service to Shrewsbury as town meeting members. We also remember Donald Fillier, who served as a town meeting member for Precinct 9 from 2002 until 2013, and who passed away on August 29th of this year. Don, his wife Janice, and their son Michael were all serving as town meeting representatives when Don and Janice decided not to seek re-election this past May. Mike Fillier continues to serve as a representative of Precinct 8. In addition to serving as a town meeting member, Don was also a volunteer and captain of the Shrewsbury Call Firefighters for over 40 years. He also served for over 20 years as director of the town's Emergency Management Agency and Civil Defense Department, while also serving his country in the United States Naval Reserves as a Master Chief Petty Officer for over 34 years. Please join me in observing a moment of silence in memory of Michael Campanello and Donald Fillier. Thank you, and please be seated. It's my pleasure to introduce the individuals who are seated on the stage tonight. Beginning on my far right, the members of the Finance Committee. Just lean forward so I can see you are. Please welcome our newest member of the Finance Committee, Hannah Kane, sitting on the end of the table. Judy Vetter, Patrick Pitney, John Sigelnik, Jean Budenhagen, Donna O'Connor, Chairman John Masiello. Sitting to John's left are assistant to the town manager Tom Gregory, town council T. Philip Leader, and to my immediate right, our town clerk Sandra Wright. To my left, he just went somewhere, town manager Daniel Mergado, you all know who he is, followed by the members of the Board of Selectmen, Chairman Jim Kane, John LeBeau, Mo DiPaolo, Henry Fitzgerald, and Moira Miller. Next, I'd like to call your attention to the town officials, department heads, and school department administrators who are seated in the front part of the auditorium. These dedicated individuals are here tonight to answer our questions and assist us in any way they can. I won't name them individually tonight as I do at the annual meeting in May, but their presence here is greatly appreciated. I also want to recognize and thank the good people of Shrewsbury Media Connection, and especially the production team and crew here tonight for taking care of our audiovisual needs and for bringing this meeting into the homes of our viewers on SGTV channels 30 and 330. In addition to the Shrewsbury Media Connection staff, there are 3 volunteers tonight who are part of the crew, Barbara Trax, Olivia Klein, and John McDonald. So thank you all for your help tonight. Before we consider the 11 articles in tonight's warrant, I'd like to review with you in a more abbreviated manner than I do at the annual town meeting several of the procedural rules that govern town meeting and which I ask you to keep in mind tonight. First, each town meeting member upon checking in should have received this bright, optic orange sticker, which must be displayed prominently on your person throughout the meeting. If and when we have to take a standing vote on any motion, your sticker must be visible to the tellers in order for your vote to be counted. Next, we will consider the warrant articles in the order in which they are printed in the warrant, unless otherwise voted by this body. All speakers must be recognized by the moderator. If you are called on to speak, please stand in your place and wait for a microphone to be passed to you before speaking, or come to the front of the room if you'd like to speak from the lectern. You must begin your comments by stating your name and precinct number, or your name and address if you are not a town meeting member, even if you've spoken before. Please address all questions and comments to me, and I will refer any question requiring a response to the appropriate person. Our town meeting procedures are governed by 3 main authorities: the general laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the general bylaws of the town of Shrewsbury, and Cushing's Manual of Parliamentary Practice. I will also have the assistance of Town Council Phil Leader in reviewing any legal or procedural issues that arise during this meeting. During the discussion of each article, I will ask the chair of the Finance Committee to state the committee's recommendation on the motion as is required by state law, and I will then indicate whether a majority or a greater number of votes is required to pass the motion. Finally, I will call for a voice vote in the first instance on every article, and if I have any doubt as to whether the motion passes or is defeated by voice vote, or if at least 7 town meeting members challenge the sufficiency of the vote, I will ask for a standing vote to eliminate any doubt. If you have not already done so, please silence any cell phones or other electronic devices in your possession. If you must make or receive a call during the meeting, please remove yourself to the lobby in consideration of others. And finally, I want to remind you that this is not a forum for the discussion of personalities, and no personal criticism or attack of any individual, group, or organization will be tolerated. Okay, before we move to the warrant articles, we have one committee report tonight from the Library Building Committee. This report will be presented by Committee Chair Michael Lapamardo. Mike?
Good evening. Michael Lapamardo, Precinct 6, also Chair of the Library Building Committee. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and members of the Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, and town meeting members. We are pleased tonight to have this opportunity to update you on the activities of the Library Building Committee. Since our last report at the May 2014 annual town meeting, the Library Building Committee and the project team have undertaken the following activities. We have secured necessary approvals from the Mass Architectural Access Board, the Mass Historic Commission, the Local Historic District Commission, the Shrewsbury Planning Board, and the Zoning Board of Appeals. We have completed construction drawings to the 60% phase, completed the value engineering process to identify cost savings, verified the project budget against the original estimate. The budget is on target. $934,680, or 4.02% of the project budget, has been expended to date. Further refinement of the exterior design is ongoing. We invite you to observe the design in the lobby, and the selections of exterior colors and materials are currently in process at this time. The library has secured the radio frequency identification, RFID tags, and the necessary conversion equipment to begin the process of converting all library collections from barcode to RFID technology. The conversion work is to commence at the temporary library site. We have approved an addition of 2,000 square feet of unfinished storage space in the basement for town use at an additional cost of $322,000, or $161 per square foot. The funds are to come from the current budget. The fundraising campaign has currently raised $949,000 in gift and pledges. There is a single major $100,000 gift to develop the children's courtyard recently received from Mr. Bob Tarkanian. We are in the process of securing a commissioning agent to assure all building systems are designed, constructed, and function correctly. We are also in final preparations for the relocation of the library services to the temporary library at 214 Lake Street, which is behind the Glavin Center. And you can view the new design out in the lobby, and you can also pick up one of these blue forms, which is here on the stage or out in the lobby, or you can listen to Mrs. Dolan eloquently explain all the details of the move on the local cable channel, whichever you prefer. The groundbreaking ceremony is planned for November 6th at 10 a.m. to be held on the library grounds. We hope that many town meeting members and members of the viewing audience will be able to attend. Our future targets include construction drawings to be completed by December 3rd, 2014, bidding and award of the contract by January 30th of 2015, hazardous materials abatement, demolition, and construction begins on February 2nd, 2015, unless the groundhog tells us otherwise. We may have to wait a little bit. But the construction will be completed on May 31st, 2016. Furniture, fixtures, and equipment, IT systems, and completion of the punch list is to be finished by the end of July 2016, and the opening of the new library is currently scheduled for August of 2016. The committee wishes to thank various officials, boards, and departments whose assistance has helped us reach this stage. Senator Michael Moore, Representative Matt Beaton, the Board of Selectmen, the Planning Department, the Public Buildings Department, the Fire Department, the Police Department, the Building Inspector, Selco, Board of Library Trustees, Capital Campaign or Fundraising Committee, and the library staff. Respectfully submitted, thank you.
Okay, now let's proceed to the warrant, which was mailed to you with the notice of this meeting several weeks ago, entitled Motions of Special Town Meeting, October 30th, 2014, along with the two amended motions which are contained in the yellow handout, which you should have received on the way in tonight. Further descriptions of these articles, together with additional materials on several of the articles, are contained in a memorandum from the town manager dated September 10th, which was mailed to all town meeting members as well. Copies of these materials are all available here in the front of the auditorium if you don't have your copies with you tonight. Okay, let's begin with Article 1. Is there a motion with respect to Article 1? Mr. Kane?
Mr. Moderator, I move the printed motion under Article 1.
The printed motion under Article 1 has been moved and seconded to amend the town's zoning map with respect to a parcel of land located on Route 9, Maple Avenue and Oak Street. Supplemental materials describing the proposed development of this property have been mailed to you as well as distributed to you this evening. The sponsor of this article, Spagtacular LLC, has requested time to make a presentation to this meeting in support of Articles 1 and 2. Given that Articles 1 and 2 both relate to the same development proposal, we will hear presentations from both the proponent of these articles and several other individuals in opposition to these articles, and then open the floor to questions and comments from town meeting members on both articles. Following these presentations and questions, we will consider and vote upon each article separately, as we are required to do under our town bylaws. For the record, Mr. Kane, will you state the motion under Article 2 as well?
Would you like me to move it or state
Yep,
it?
move it.
Mr. Moderator, I move the printed motion under Article 2.
Second.
Okay, so now that Articles 1 and 2 have both been moved and seconded, we'll proceed with the scheduled presentations, beginning with Mr. Sam Adams, the owner of Spagtacular LLC, to come forward. And Mr. Adams, would you please introduce your colleagues who are here with you tonight presenting?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and town meeting members, selectmen, and members of the Finance Committee, and everyone else in attendance. I'm Sam Adams. I'm a real estate developer. I purchased the former, what is commonly referred to as the Spags warehouse property about 1.5 years ago, almost 2 years. And I have been working on a redevelopment of that project. With me tonight, I have my land use professional, Mike Dryden from Waterman Design, Lou Olivato, my architect, Olivato and Associates, Todd Rodman, Attorney Todd Rodman from Cedar and Chandler, and Susan Nichols and Jack Carter, who work with me in my office. I purchased the property, as I mentioned, about 1.5 years ago with the intent to redevelop the property. The property is currently about 27 acres, 2/3 of which are currently zoned commercial, and they include, and that includes an overlay, the Lakeway Overlay District. The remaining 1/3 is zoned residential. I'm here tonight requesting an extension of what is currently zoned commercial, the 18 or so acres, to extend that to the 9 acres that are zoned residential. and additionally to extend the existing Lakeway Overlay District to mirror that extension and overlay the same piece of property that we are seeking rezoning. The reason we are seeking the rezoning is simply to have a larger mass of property to develop the proposed project. The proposed project is a mixed-use project that will encompass, anticipated to encompass entertainment, retail, restaurant, and office. Additionally, some health uses. And it's a project that I'm sure you're all familiar with the site, and it's a challenging site, and I'm guessing that's why it hasn't been developed. It ranges from the bottom to the top. There's a 110-foot difference in elevation, and that creates quite a bit of challenges, but we've worked on it a long time, and we've come up with what we consider a really exciting plan, using the 9 acres, if we get that changed, over to what we're requesting with an extension. So I'm going to turn this over right now to Mike Dryden, who's going to review explicitly what requests have been made, and then he will turn it over to Lou Olivato, who will review what we have planned. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Again, my name is Michael Dryden. I'm a Senior Project Manager with Waterman Design Associates in Westboro. I'd like to add to what Mr. Adams spoke about in terms of zoning. I have a series of 4 slides that I'd like to walk you through that talk about underlying zoning as well as the Lakeway Overlay District zoning. And to get you oriented to the site, north is straight up the page. The site is about 27 acres, the bold black line around the property. Only the property is colored on this map. Of course, Boston Turnpike, Route 9 along the bottom, Oak Street here, the signal at Oak and Route 9, and Maple Street, which eventually meets up with Route 9 in this location. You'll notice the white area on the map here. That is not part of the project site. There are 3 residential dwellings that are out parcels, again, not part of the site, not colored. There's a small building here, gains access off of Route 9. That is the Masons facility that you may be aware of. And as Sam mentioned, this is the former Chelmsford Ginger Ale Bottling Company building and its parking facility. This map represents the existing zoning as it stands today. The yellow L-shaped is currently the boundary of the commercial business district right through here. The bluish purple color being primarily Residence B1, this area, a small area of Residence B1 here, and finally Residence B2 in this location. Again, this is existing zoning. Next slide, please. As you'll notice here, the yellow area, the commercial business, now extends out to the extent of the property boundaries along Oak Street. That's about 9.6 acres of additional commercial business that was previously Residence B1. Next slide, please. In a similar fashion, I want to walk you through the Lakeway Overlay District. This is the existing Lakeway Overlay District, the L-shaped orange color, obviously you see here. It fronts along Route 9, a portion of Maple, and a small portion of Oak Street here. We'll now go to the next slide, which is the proposed Lakeway Overlay District. And again, you'll see that that color now extends out to the residential out parcels and the project boundary at its east edge at Oak Street. That's about 10.8 acres of expansion of the Lakeway Overlay District. Next slide, please. What you have before you is a conceptual development plan. This plan is modeled after the underlying zoning, the first 2 slides that I showed you. If that Article 1 is successful, this is what the plan may look like. This is a commercial plan, and I'm going to walk you through the various buildings. What you're looking at is approximately 430,000 square feet of development. Certainly the exact shape of the buildings, the parking fields could change, but as Mr. Adams mentioned, we have significant topographic constraints on the site. We have zoning controls in place in terms of open space requirements, building setbacks, maximum building height, all of which govern how much development can be placed on this particular piece of property. So again, approximately 430,000 square feet shown here. I'm going to start at the lower elevation down at the bottom. You'll see this box here. That's a 3-story building. It's 180,000 square feet total. The lower parking field, the lowest point on the site is here. That would relate to the lower level of that building. You'll see a box here. This is a single deck over parking structure. That parking field relates to level 2 of the building. And finally, this parking field that you see relates to the upper level of the building. So what we're trying to demonstrate to you tonight is that the site is essentially set up like a set of stairs, treads and risers. We're working up with the grade of the site. This building that you see here is what will remain of the Chelmsford building. That's a small portion of the building. That's the original 1927 Art Deco facade of the Chelmsford building that will remain. There's a small building shown here, a standalone building. That is a relocation of the Mason building that I pointed out earlier that's right here under existing condition. 6,000 square foot building with standalone parking. A couple of small structures to the extreme north. That's an existing single-family dwelling. There's an additional proposed single-family dwelling in that location. This box that you see is a multi-level parking structure that will provide parking for all of the surrounding uses and supplement those other parking fields that I pointed out previously. There's a long linear building approximately in the center of the site, currently envisioned for cinema use and retail restaurant use. And finally, there's an upper parking field that relates to the upper floor of that building. Much like I described with the lower building, this building is a split level, whereas it's accessed from its lower level here and from its upper level in this location. Finally, there's another long linear building that parallels Route 9 in this location. That's a 2.5-story building envisioned for retail restaurant use. Again, those uses may change, the exact shapes of those buildings may change, but we feel that this is a pretty good representation of what this particular 27-acre site can support. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lou Olivato, project architect. Lou?
Good evening, Lou Olivato, Olivato Architects. I've been designing retail facilities for well over 25 years. Recently, locally, we are the architects who did the Northborough Crossing project here. That included the state's first Wegmans. We are also we are also the architects for Wayland Town Center, which is about a 200,000 square foot mixed-use retail development, beautiful town center in Wayland. And we're also the architects for University Station, which is about 600,000 plus square feet of retail plus office, residential, assisted living, and it also features the Wegmans. So we know a little something about retail. The Grove features retail in a very vibrant and dense kind of way in a very nice campus type setting. The buildings relate to the site in much of the way that the site lends itself to the topography. The cascading layers create interesting solutions to the buildings and provide, as Mike Dryden was referring to, multiple possible entry points. This encourages a lot of varied use for the building because now you can kind of layer the building and create a stacking effect. The retail would feature, as was pointed out, a wonderful mix of tenants, and it would include a cinema, it might include a fitness center, junior anchor type retailers, and as well as small shop retailers. The buildings are organized around the site in terms of the way they step. So as was pointed out, entry points along the lower part of the site are here, mid-level here, and then it cascades or moves in an upward manner. Cinema would be located here, for example, with parking above. There would be a network of pedestrian circulation that would sort of link all the parts together and offer wonderful amenities, and it would include nicely landscaped sidewalks, broad, wide sidewalks for the convenience of shoppers strolling. Layering of the sidewalks would include things like light poles, benches, and things like that. The architecture of the buildings is an eclectic mix of materials, but all sort of regional type materials, including could be stone, it might be wood, reclaimed wood to create sort of interesting patterns. It might include brick, and it may include metal panel and those sorts of things. Can you go to the next slide, please? So one of the aspects about the site that I think is very nice is that it offers the kinds of things that retailers are looking for and would make retailers want to come here. So it's got great visibility along Route 9. The layering of the building creates visual corridors so that the retailers have some presence on Route 9, which is important to them. Here you get a good sense of the way the topography is working and the way the network of buildings are connected. The buildings would feature high-quality materials. Energy conservation would be important. They would feature green and sustainable kind of strategies, such as efficiency in glass, high-efficient glass, high-efficient HVAC equipment, LED lighting, that sorts of things. So that's a quick overview. Sam?
So just a quick recap, because I know we've got only a certain short period of time allotted to us, and then we're going to move on 3 more minutes, I believe. This project is a little unique for those of you who don't see how unique it is, in the sense that what we've done is we've created this mass of retail that and buildings that are accessible from ground parking, even though the buildings themselves are multi-story. So typically, anything above a ground floor would really lend itself more to an office-type use. But because of the way we've terraced and made use of the terracing and distributed the parking, the footprint looks smaller, but the mass is actually there. And the parking is, there are parking fields directly adjacent to all of the uses, and which provide for immediate ground floor access, even though in many of the cases the buildings are 2 or 3 floors high. This is unique to the area, and it's unique because developers usually don't do this, or in the case of Northborough Crossing or the shops at Blackstone, they do a lot of site work. They just build some retaining walls, they fill it in, and they try to make it as flat as possible. We thought this site we think this site has some really great potential to do it a different way, and we think the site itself is a fantastic site on Route 9, multiple streets essentially all around it, multiple points of entry. There is a demand for an upscale type of shopping center in the area. Those of you I'm assuming all from the area, know that Worcester Center is no longer. Greendale is very small, really doesn't fall into this category. So there is no mall that meets these needs. This is more like a mall turned inside out, and everyone knows they haven't been building malls for some time. This is the new design, and we're going to develop the property, and we would like to get the zoning that we requested tonight in order to facilitate the project that's before you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next, I'm going to call on 2 residents, abutters to this property, Patricia Lake and Lee Mancini. whose properties abut the property in question and who have requested time to address this meeting on Articles 1 and 2.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Hello, my name is Lee Mancini, and I live at 110 Oak Street here in Shrewsbury. I wanted to start out by thanking the town and our elected officials for allowing us to talk to all of you tonight. You have before you Article 1 on the warrant that is asking all of you as town meeting members to rezone the 9.6 acres of land that surrounds the 3 homes at 110, 108, and 104 Oak Street from Residence B1 to commercial business. Here's some information we feel is important for you to have before you vote. When we purchased our home 15 years ago, and when the Lake family purchased their home at 108 Oak Street 43 years ago, our homes were surrounded on all sides by residentially zoned property, just like many of you are surrounded on all sides by residential property in your neighborhoods. Our understanding and expectation was that if the land was developed, it would be used for residential purposes. 15 years ago, we could not have anticipated the situation facing us now, potentially being surrounded by commercial development and the negative impact that situation would have on our family's life and most valuable asset. I ask you to stop and seriously consider how you would feel if you were part of a neighborhood was to be rezoned from residential to commercial. There are, however, 17 plus acres of this property that are already zoned commercial. We fully support the development of that commercial property because we know and agree that it would revitalize the Route 9 corridor and generate much needed revenue for our town. Just like all of you, we want Shrewsbury to remain viable for the long term. Many of you that we have spoken to have expressed concerns about potential 40B housing on this residential property and feel that if rezoned commercial, the 40B could be avoided. The fact of the matter is that the developer could still put 40B housing on this same land even if it was rezoned commercial. 40B housing can be placed on any land without regard to zoning. Voting yes to the rezoning will not protect the town from additional 40B housing. We know that many of you have serious concerns about our overburdened school system and think that rezoning the residential area to commercial will prevent more children from enrolling in our school district. What you need to know is the developer can put up apartments in the existing Lakeway overlay districts on the existing commercial property, and there is nothing we can do to prevent that. The Lakeway overlay zoning specifically allows for mixed use so that both residential and commercial use are supported by that property. This residential component will certainly add children to our schools, so voting yes to the rezoning will not protect us from additional burden to our schools. People have also talked about future mitigation of any potential problems arising from rezoning this area from residential to commercial, like, for example, traffic issues on Oak Street. 27 acres of commercial development that has access onto Oak Street will certainly impact traffic flow. It is important to remember, however, that some problems can't be mitigated. The schools on Oak Street are not moving, and the number of children needing to get to these schools will only be rising. We have also heard many people say that this is strictly a discussion about zoning and nothing more. However, that is like lining up 100 dominoes in a row and asking you to knock over only the first one and ignore the rest. We believe that we should be thinking about the rezoning like that first domino and trying to envision what happens when the next 99 topple over. We need to focus on the long-term viability of this project because we have seen others not come to fruition. That is the only way this town wins. And there is simply not enough information to gauge the viability and justify a large rezoning change. The developer has presented 4 different plans for this proposed development, different plans to MIPA and the town. Despite all of this planning, it is not clear what will be built, as we have been told that the plans are all very conceptual and fluid in nature. In fact, Once you vote this rezoning change through, we'll have been given away yet another level of control over what gets built there. So if you feel confused by the many different plans that the developer has put forth and the potential differing outcomes, and don't want to tip over this first domino without knowing where it leads, then we ask you to vote no. If you feel that you need more information or more time to better understand the impact of this zoning because it is truly not clear, then we ask you to vote no. If you feel, as we do, that there are other current commercial pieces of property lying empty, run down, and already zoned commercial waiting to be developed, then we ask you to vote no. Shrewsbury is defined by the relationships between all of its residents. We are a collection of neighborhoods and families that support each other and take care of each other. In my role as a Shrewsbury parent and team sports physician for Shrewsbury High School, I have coached many of your sons and daughters, cared for many of your family members, volunteered on numerous organizations, and banded together with many of you on a variety of causes for the benefit of Shrewsbury. Tonight, we are asking you to send a message that these relationships, neighborhoods, and families matter. If this rezoning does pass, however, we make one request to you as town meeting members, selectmen, and members of the Finance and Planning Board. Do not forget about us after this meeting. Hold the developer to a high standard of ethics, a high standard of design, and a high standard of achievement in this project. Make him operate with integrity and transparency. Make him communicate honestly and openly with all of the butters and all of you. As a town, we can do better, we can be better, and we should expect better. In closing, I know that when I am taking care of your children and family members, I always say, if this was my child or family member, this is what I would do. I challenge each and every one of you to ask yourself the same question in the context of the vote tonight. If this were happening to your brother's home, your sister's home, or your family or parents' home, what would you do? How would you vote? I know what my vote would be. Thank you.
Mrs. Lake? No, that's out of order, folks. Please, no expressions of support or opposition will be, is acceptable at town meeting. Thank you.
Patricia Lake, 108 Oak Street. This is a rock. This is a hard place. And you are here. We are all here right now. We are the Lakes, and our family has played a supporting role in this community, our community, for the past 43 years. We've been told not to show you pictures of our home, not to mention the historic significance of our property, or to mention the irony regarding the fact that 108 Oak Street was actually the original farm to which all of this real estate once belonged. We're not here to talk about our 250-year-old trees, or Bambi, or Thumper, or the wildlife that inhabits our surrounding woods. Instead, we're here to talk with you about Articles 1 and 2 that you're being asked to vote on this evening. And we are here to encourage you to vote no until you are absolutely certain this project is going to turn out to be in the best interest of our town, regardless of the impact it will have on the personal quality of life for the Mancini and the Lake families. You'll be reminded that submitted conceptual plans will have no impact on tonight's articles. You will be reminded that you are only voting on a zoning change. You will be told that the Lakeway Overlay District will provide an opportunity for your town to have more control over the proposed project, but only if the developer chooses to build under the Overlay District requirements. Keep in mind that, should you vote yes, only 3 of the 5 members of the Planning Board will be needed to be convinced by the developer, and he will be allowed to pretty much do whatever he wants. When big things are about to happen to your neighborhoods, the majority of you would prefer to be treated kindly and respectfully. You would expect to find out about potential life-altering situations regarding your property by registered mail rather than by bulldozer. Having experienced firsthand this type of notice, there's great concern about the precedence that's being set. An attitude of asking forgiveness instead of permission is a dangerous attitude, especially in matters where alterations made can never be restored to their original state. Most of you, when making large purchases, do your homework. You check consumer reports, check in with friends for their experiences and recommendations, and do a thorough job of ensuring that you are making the best possible choice. But what if the options became confusing? What if you were being forced to make a decision without proper time to weigh all the options? You know that type of salesman. The sale ends today. What if that salesman wasn't even sure about what he was selling you, or how much it costs, or even what it did? We've all been there, and we find ourselves in that situation right now. In fact, there are many in this town that have no idea what you're voting on, or that you're even voting tonight. Many of you only have some of the information, and if you vote yes tonight, you may get this, or this, or this, or something entirely different altogether. In October of 1979, a similar plan for apartments was submitted by Henry Frangillo and defeated by town meeting. These apartments were to be built on the 104, 108, and 110 Oak Street properties. And while you're only being asked to vote on a zoning change, it is important to understand that this change will have an impact on future plans for the area. Like the dominoes that Lee referred to in his presentation, the Phase 4 plan can and will dramatically affect all of you. And like the 1979 plan, the Phase 2 and 3 of the proposed plans includes access onto and off of Oak Street at very dangerous places along the hill. Phase 4 includes an additional entrance and exit. You will be told that traffic is a non-issue at this time. And we're sure those of you with children in the 3 schools accessed by Oak Street will welcome the traffic that retail space and apartments will add as you try to pick up your children from school in a timely manner. Be assured that future conceptual plans do indeed impact your vote today. Recently, a Proposition 2.5 override was voted in to take care of our children. You'll be told that studio and one-bedroom apartments will not add any children to our schools. You've been told that there is a commitment to add not one single child to our school system. Either way, the potential for the addition of numerous families does exist, and the next 2.5 override will be forthcoming when a new school needs to be built. Like the main character in The Emperor's New Clothes, some of you will be enamored with promises that have no backing. Some of you will be content to see no definitive plans, cross your fingers, and hope for the best. After all, the town does need the money, regardless of the cost. And the tailor will be hired in the hopes that he has only the best interest of the emperor in mind. He will receive the keys to the kingdom, be paid handsomely, allowed to do just as he wishes, and hopefully the emperor will not be naked in the end. In the very words of a very famous radio personality, Paul H. Arant, known to you as Paul Harvey, there is always a rest of the story. Unfortunately, we've only seen the teaser. The rest of the story is still to be written. This is not the time to vote yes. You do not have enough information. You have nothing but several conceptual plans and a very clever tailor who tells you what you want to hear. In closing, we would like to say thank you to those of you who took the time to read our letter. Inform yourselves, call us, come talk with us, and even visit us to walk our land and hear our voices. Thank you for treating us with kindness and respect, like human beings and as valued members of this town, not just lot numbers or homeowners who are in the way. We'd also like to thank those of you who sent along messages to suck it up, get over it, pack it up and move on, or stop whining and buy better snow tires. We thank you for helping us to better understand who represents us and the attitudes towards those they represent. For those of you who refer to us as NIMBYs, might we suggest that you're merely thinking TGI NIMBY. Thank God it's not my backyard. Everything before you is fluid, flexible, and forming. You've not had enough time to gather information to support this vote. Perhaps it would be better for the developer to leave the residential parcel alone for now, build that which he is confident of, and return to you with a solid plan after he successfully develops his already zoned commercial property. The decision is in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lake. Will the members of the Finance Committee and Board of Selectmen take your seats so we can move on? Just a couple of very brief formalities, folks, before we move on to the open question portion of the discussion of these articles. Okay, first, for the record, and as required by law, I have to tell you that I have two letters here, each addressed to Sandra Wright, our town clerk, dated September 22nd, 2014, and signed by Melvin Gordon, chairman of the Shrewsbury Planning Board. With respect to Article 1, the letter states that on September 22nd, the Planning Board held a public hearing regarding the zoning amendment proposed by Article 1, at the close of the hearing, the Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval of Article 1 regarding amendments to the zoning map. The second letter, also dated September 22nd, from the Planning Board to Town Clerk Sandra Wright, is in reference to Article 2 of the special town meeting, and the letter states that on September 22nd, 2014, the Planning Board held a public hearing regarding the zoning amendment proposed by Article 2 and amendments to the Lakeway Overlay District map. And after closing the hearing, the Planning Board voted 4-1 to recommend approval of Article 2. So that is now part of the record of this town meeting. The next thing I need to do to be on the record is to ask the Finance Committee for its recommendation. And Mr. Masiello, I'll ask you to give your recommendations on Articles 1 and 2, just for convenience.
The Finance Committee recommended approval of Articles 1 and 2 by a vote of 8-0 with one recusal on each of 1 and 2.
Okay, thank you both. And now we will entertain questions or comments from those of you town meeting members in attendance. Mrs. Lass? Kristen Lass is the principal planner for the town of Shrewsbury and chairman of the Economic Development.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator and members of the town meeting. Before comments and questions are given by the town meeting members, I did want to make a few clarifications. It's my understanding that there was a flyer that was circulated yesterday, I believe, signed by concerned citizens of Shrewsbury. I do not know who these concerned citizens are. They did not sign the letter, and I do not believe that this group is a registered group with the town clerk's office. The memo is 2 sheets. It starts as Article 1, and I want to just go by it point by point to make the town meeting members aware of the truth and false points that have been made in this document. Article 1, if the town meeting members vote yes on this article, 9.6 acres of residential area B1 land will be converted to commercial business only. That is a correct statement. However, the paragraph goes on to read, in this case, the developer will be able to build no more than 1 condo or apartment building, and the planning board will still be able to control the process. This is a false statement. Apartments and condos are not permitted in the commercial business zoning district. A 40B development, as was stated previously, could be located in either a commercial business or residential district with a comprehensive permit by the Zoning Board of Appeals. So I just want to clear that up. Since we're also talking about Article 2 as well as Article 1, I want to clear up some falsities in this section as well. The first section, titled Article 2, states, if the town meeting members vote yes on this article, they will ease the way for the developer to avoid any future control of the planning board and its restrictions on building of condominiums or apartment buildings. This statement is false. The planning board has much greater control over a project that is permitted under the Lakeway Overlay provisions. And I'll be actually showing a few slides that give you an understanding of the Lakeway Overlay provisions and the structure that the planning board must follow through our zoning bylaw. This goes on to say, it is clear that the developer can then, if he doesn't like the request of the planning board, invoke Article 40B it should be Chapter 40B, which will give him unlimited permission to build low-income housing instead. This is again false. There's no such thing as unlimited permission. If a 40B were to be developed, there would be requirements under the state law as well as approval by the Town Zoning Board of Appeals. As well as the project under a 40B would be limited in sense of number of units. This goes on to state if the town meeting members vote no on both articles, the zoning will remain as the same as it is now. Absolutely correct. It goes on to state 4 additional points that are all erroneous at this time, and I believe false in many cases. I want to point you to item number 4 on page 2. It states, in the area that is now zoned as residential area 9.6 acres, about 16 houses can be built. In a by right plan that the developer showed to MIPA, they showed 17 houses. It goes on to read, it would be much less dramatic change of appearance in the town, which will begin to look far more like Worcester if a large multifamily complexes are built on that land. We have many apartment complexes in the town of Shrewsbury, and Shrewsbury is very different than Worcester. All of the communities are very different in Massachusetts. Again, I'd like to correct the next sentence. It states 16 households. I'd like to correct that as 17, might add a maximum of 32 children into the school system. As you've heard me speak at town meeting before, we've done population projections for school projections, and it seems as though there's about 1 child per household in the school system based upon current projections. So I'd like to change that number of 32 to 17 for factual. If under Article 40B up to 500 living units are added, they could very conservatively calculate 250 school children to the system. In reviewing the Chapter 40B rules and regulations, a town of Shrewsbury with our housing stock of 13,919 units, we could only support one 40B project of 300 units per site. There's no such thing as a 500-unit 40B project for the town of Shrewsbury. And then it goes on to state the cost per school children, and I can't comment on this, and I believe that it's erroneous information. So, in summary, voting no on Article 1 would not increase the amount of commercial land in the town of Shrewsbury, and voting no on Article 2 would not allow for increased review and design standards by the planning board. And if Mr. Gregory wouldn't mind turning on just a very, very brief presentation, I appreciate your attention to this matter, but I want to make sure that the facts are correct, as there has been some incorrect information. Next slide, please. The town meeting, I believe, is very familiar actually with the Lakeway Overlay District, as we just amended it at our special town meeting in April of 2014. This slide gives you the provisions of what the Lakeway District is all about: to encourage a mix of commercial, residential, institutional, and civic uses in a physical arrangement that is safe for vehicular, pedestrian, and bicycle traffic; to provide for viable alternatives to conventional commercial sprawl, thereby assisting the town in creating and maintaining a vibrant, walkable commercial area; to promote shared access and appropriate links to adjoining properties, thereby lessening the need for curb openings onto Route 9. Next slide, please. In addition, the Lakeway Overlay District is an overlay district that applies to portions of the commercial business and limited business districts along Route 9, as shown as the Lakeway Overlay District map. An overlay district, it provides for development options that do not exist in the underlying zoning. I just want to give everyone an overview of our existing Lakeway Overlay District. You'll see in the colored portions the areas of town that are zoned commercial business, which is the yellow, the limited business, which is red, and then the hatching surrounded by the black, which is our Lakeway Overlay District. The area that's before us this evening is approximately this area here, and was shown on an existing plan that the Lakeway Overlay District does encompass some of the property that is before you this evening in this general area here. Next slide, please. As the developer showed, they like to extend the Lakeway District to this area as well as the commercial business district, so there is a consistency between the two. Next slide, please. I want to give everyone a sense of what is allowed in the Lakeway Overlay District. A mixed use of commercial business district uses as well as residential uses. Dwelling units above the ground floor of a commercial building, separate dwelling structures, live-in workspace, vertical mixed use of development, conversion of one-family or two-family dwellings for use of office, residential, or retail. Next slide, please. This table gives you a sense of the dimensional requirements that the planning board and building inspector's office and other boards are looking for when they're reviewing a development. Again, it's been stated this evening that there's concepts here. I want to stress that any development that were to go on this property, whether it be commercial, mixed use, or residential, will have to go before the planning board for site plan approval and most likely special permit processes. I don't want to dwell on these dimensions. However, you'll notice that in the Lakeway Overlay District, there is some give and take related to frontage, lot area, height, and like. Next slide, please. In closing, I want to give you a sense of the design standards that the planning board has to decide on and vote via special permit for a Lakeway project to move forward. Public safety by avoiding pedestrian and vehicular hazards, minimizing curb cuts on existing public ways, contributing to visually attractive pedestrian bicycle-oriented image, orientation of buildings shall provide an inviting entry, size, mass, facades, and exterior features and materials, roof lines and roof features, environmental design using green building technologies. And finally, there's a section in the Lakeway Overlay District that requires the planning board to require the developer to include community benefits, an affordable housing component that would be 10% minimum, neighborhood or community facilities, and to incorporate walkability and bikeable areas. So in summary, this is a snapshot of what the Lakeway Overlay District would provide. If Article 1 were to pass, the developer would be able to develop a commercial project. If the Lakeway Overlay District were also to pass, there would be increased stringent design standards that the planning board would put forward. However, there would also be an opportunity for the developer to include very innovative design standards for pedestrian, walkability, bike-friendly. We wouldn't just have a standard Home Depot with a parking lot, Stop and Shop Plaza with a parking lot. So there are other options to provide that flexibility. So thank you for your time so I could explain some of the nuances of our zoning and provide some clarification on some of the falsities that may have been presented to you over the past few weeks.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions or discussions regarding the motions under Articles 1 and 2? Mr. Hogan?
Matt Hogan, Precinct 3. I just want a clarification on some things I heard. I heard that there will be no residential development unless it's 40B. Is that correct?
Response, Mr. Adams or one of his representatives? Sure.
Mr. Hogan, the question is, again, you heard there would be no residential unless it was 40B? Is that the question?
Yes, I thought I heard
Ms. Lass?
Lassie say that since it would be zoned commercially, there couldn't be residential. So I just want to understand whether there is a residential option for you.
Well, there is, right now, there is the 18 or so acres that is zoned commercial, almost all of which has, except a sliver, has the Lakeway Overlay District on it. My understanding of the zoning and the Lakeway, that if we were to develop those 18 acres as strictly commercial, there would be no residential on it from a town level. I suppose we could file a 40B at the state level. That's something we have not looked at. With the Lakeway overlay, which is currently in place on those plus or minus 18 acres, my understanding is that we could make use of, if we chose to develop it using the Lakeway overlay, there could be some residential. The 9 acres that is currently zoned residential could in fact be developed now as residential. It's zoned residential single family. So we would have to adhere to the current zoning governing residential single family development. If we were to get a commercial extension of the commercial, my understanding is that on the local level, there could be no residential on those 9 acres. If there is an approval on the first article, which is the extension for those more or less 9 acres to include a Lakeway overlay, then just like the 18 acres we have, if we were to choose to develop under the Lakeway overlay district guidelines, there could be a residential component. I think there is an option for 40B, which doesn't matter if there is, it doesn't really matter, it's a state jurisdiction, and it doesn't matter if it's currently zoned commercial, residential, or if there's a Lakeway overlay in place, is my understanding. Does that answer your question?
Do you have a follow-up, Mr. Hogan?
Yes, the follow-up is no, it doesn't. So I'm not opposed to the project. I'm just trying to understand some things that were presented. So one thing I heard is that, from Ms. Lassen, I believe it is that under the Lakeway, if we vote, let's say we vote yes on both articles, that through the Lakeway overlay, we will have more control. But the developer has the option to not participate, is that correct? Okay, that I wanted to understand. And with respect to this project, if both pass, excluding a 40B, there still could be a residential component, legally.
Mr. Adams?
Yes, thank you. If Article 1 is passed and Article 2 is passed, we would have the option to choose to incorporate and develop under the Lakeway Overlay District guidelines. And there could be a residential component to the project.
Thank you. I just needed
Further
to
questions or comments with respect to Articles 1 or 2? Yes, ma'am. Can't see it clearly enough to identify you by name.
Suzanne Remington, Precinct 9. I would like to know, on the map, I noticed that there are several entrances and exits onto existing streets. How will those entrances and exits be managed in terms of traffic flow? Will there be lights, stop signs, and who will pay for it, if that's the case?
Mrs. Lass, would you like to try that? Microphone? Oh, okay.
Thank you. My understanding of your question is that there are several entrances and exits on existing roadways, and how will traffic be managed in that fashion? There is frontage on Oak Street, Route 9, and Maple Avenue for all of the property at this time. The project proponent, if they move forward with a project, will be required to submit a traffic study to both the Planning Board and Mass DOT. Route 9 and Maple Avenue are Mass DOT roadways, so they have jurisdiction over that. And it is too early at this time to tell what the actual impacts are and what mitigation is required, but that would be exhaustively reviewed during the Planning Board and final MEPA process.
Further questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Ed Lenahan, Precinct 3 in general, but Stone Ave in particular, which the part that's not really addressed in a lot of this conversation is the section of Route 9 that'll be heading east, because there's everything that goes west will ultimately come east. And with respect to Mrs. Lass's last comment, I think it's putting the cart before the horse to not do a traffic study before we would engage into rezoning this particular area. And I would encourage anyone to take a ride on Route 9 west in the evening or east in the morning, because it's packed there now, and it sometimes takes 5 minutes for me to get off my street presently. I've heard from several neighbors on that side of the eastbound side of Route 9 that directly faces this proposed project, and while the 18 acres, we look forward to seeing it developed, much like Mr. Mancini said, I'd prefer to see this done in a phased project to understand in phases what the impact is going to be to the traffic, to the infrastructure, which I'm sure will all be studied extensively. But we only have one chance to make this, or perhaps we have two chances. I grew up in a town where there was vast redevelopment done in the 70s, much of without overthought, and they're there for life. I prefer to take a phased approach to this to see where it would ultimately lead, and I would like to see this Article 2 voted no. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Mr. Lukacs.
John Lukacs, Precinct 2. First, I want to clarify a couple of things I think I heard Mrs. Lass say. If Article 1 passes, but Article 2 were to fail, okay, first of all, if Article 1 passes, then the property up that's currently zoned residential would become commercial, and there would be no, aside from a 40B project, there would be no residential units allowed in that area. I think that's a true statement, okay? But if Article 2 were to pass, then we have an extension of the Lakeway District. We have a larger property that's zoned Lakeway for the developer. A larger property means that he would have the opportunity and the flexibility to build more housing units in that mixed-use area. Now, one of the diagrams that was shown at the planning meeting, anyway, I don't know if I saw it tonight, they didn't mention it, but one of the diagrams showed a substantial housing unit, apartment complex. I wasn't quite sure how you want to designate it, but those were a fairly large apartment complex, it appeared to be. If that's the case, then while we have more control, the planning board may have more control. The fact is we've already sort of let the horse out of the barn in terms of saying now that land can be used to develop a lot more housing units. So I think we need to appreciate that. And when I say a lot more, potentially, again, developer will do whatever it maximizes his profits. But the flexibility he has by being able to decide, you know, if he's going to do housing units and how many housing units can be a key factor in that. And if we go back to the Grossman development back in April, as far as I could tell, it was the developer who was pushing fairly hard to increase the total number of housing units that could be built in a Lakeway district project from 125 to 270. Okay, so, and I don't know whether this property here would accommodate that, but the more land you add to a property for development, the more commercial and the more housing units you can put into it. So on that basis alone, I think Article 2 needs to be defeated. If they want to put a commercial up there, then I would fall back on the points that the local residents and the problems with traffic and everything like that. I think we still need more study on that. But I would say for sure we don't want. I don't think we need to think about it very much. We ought to defeat Article 2 hands down. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Mr. Brunel.
Arthur Brunel, Precinct 1. I wonder, has any, and maybe this should go to the town manager who can send it to the right place. Have we done any kind of a study as to how much tax revenue might accrue to the town as opposed to the cost for increased police and fire protection what might be encountered?
Well, let me
Mr.
take,
Morgado.
let me take the costs, in reverse. Commercial development, the draw on public services is negligible. You know, there might be some emergency responses necessary, traffic control and the like. As far as real estate taxes are concerned, a lot of it's going to depend upon what ultimately gets built, and, you know, what we're able to value it at. Does it end up getting valued, for instance, at $200 a square foot, which is the current value we're carrying for White City West? Or is it some amount less than that based upon, do they end up actually doing some office on one of the upper floors? Is it all retail? So a lot of it depends upon the ultimate mix. Right now, I think that property is generating in total about $55,000 in real estate taxes. I think I had mentioned back in April that by comparison, White City West is generating, I think, just under $450,000 in taxes. So you know, we can't, you know, we could give you numbers, but until we actually see what's going to be built and what actually does get built and what the uses are going to be, and it goes through the valuation process that the principal assessor, we really don't have a number at this time. We would develop a number during the special permit process. If, for instance, there was a Lakeway proposal, because during that time, there's a process of negotiation where we're interacting with the developer and we're getting a better sense of what they have signed on as tenants, what the phasing is going to be, what kind of structures are they putting up, what are the amenities going to be. Very similar to the process mentioned earlier we're going through now with the Grossman Development Group, where we're having those meetings on an ongoing basis. But right now, the property is, I think by all agreement, extremely underutilized as a commercial parcel. It's been underutilized now for a very long period of time. You all remember, I think, the map that we showed back in April, which took the entire town of Shrewsbury, and we colored it light green, indicating residential use in the community. And then we showed those very narrow ribbons of non-residential use. What the thought being is, how do we maximize to the greatest extent possible that very thin ribbon in order to support the service demands, which primarily come from the residential sector?
So as
Do you have a follow-up, Mr.
Follow-up,
Brunel?
please, Mr. Moderator. So as I look at this beautiful drawing, this rendition, if this were to come to pass, we would certainly get far more than $55,000 annually from that property.
Well, I don't know if Mr. Reedy wants to throw a number out there, but I would caution him not to do that. Do you want to throw it out there?
Yeah, there will be no throwing out of numbers here
Right.
tonight.
But again, what you have there is a wooded area. You got the building itself, which has been vacant for some time. They're talking 400,000 square feet. I think the White City West is a little under 200,000 square feet. So, you know, it's substantial.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Mrs. Delgado? Microphone? Why don't you stand up, Debbie, and then they'll know where to bring the mic. Oh, I'm sorry, I called on the wrong person. Is that your twin sister? Go ahead, I'm sorry, ma'am, sitting next to Mr. Gooley. Forgive me.
Linda Sarkisian, Precinct 4. In listening to a few people's comments, I think there's a little bit of confusion. It seems that a lot of this project is planned in a phased manner, and we will be seeing revenue generated, whether or not we vote, to approve this, if I'm correct. And also, I believe the developer owns the Fairlawn Plaza, so there is going to be development over there that we're not seeing at all because no zoning requirements are necessary. So we're going to have that all in the Lakeway overlay. But so anyway, the other point I have is I did Google last night and I found a MEPA report that is an amended record of decision, September 12th, 2014, that is talking about 140 apartment units in a 5-story building, which would be Phase 4, adjacent to Oak Street, which was what was in a photograph that we had in our packet that's no longer. So I think that seems to indicate that if we do vote in favor of these changes, it will have housing. And I think it would be wise of us to not vote in favor of it, to see it in a phased manner. And, you know, we've got a lot of changes going there between the Spags property and this new property. And they're hopefully all going to be good. But let's not do it all at once. It's
Yeah, I think. Mr.
Response,
Adams-
Mr.
Adams,
Morgado?
I think needs to correct that, I think. Right. You got to explain Phase 4.
Mr. Adams?
To address that question or comment, what was in the MEPA, the way the MEPA process works is that we're asked to submit what we think could potentially be the largest project on that property. When we looked at this property, as other projects that I've done, we always look at what properties might be something that we would like to acquire at a later date. So we have more or less the 27 acres and the 3 houses on Lake, the Mancini household, on Oak Mancini household, the Lake household, and the Musi household. When we responded to and submitted the MEPA plan, we generated a plan that would be sort of maximum, because they like to see what would be the maximum that could ever get developed. So because those 3 parcels are embedded, so to speak, in the property that I currently own, we showed a plan that includes those 3 houses. We don't control those houses. I don't know if we ever will. I don't know if the current owners or future owners would ever have any intention of selling. But to respond to do the MEPA submission, we showed development on those 3 parcels, and that is the building that you're referring to. And I understand that was very confusing to everybody, and if I had understood that, I would have probably opted not to show that, but it was already done. So what was handed out at the door today was a correction to properly depict what we have proposed for the property we do control, and for what we've requested the zone change and extension of the overlay district, and that does not include any residential. It includes, the only residential component are the 2 houses that are on Maple that we're not asking for a zone change. So in the plan that corresponds to the Article 1 and Article 2, there is no residential component. Does that answer your question?
Further questions or comments? Okay. I'm sorry. Sir. Sitting right in front of Mr. Hogan.
Bernie Forletta, Precinct 1. I just have a question concerning the map here showing parking spaces. Is there any indication as to how many cars that would accommodate if full, assuming that everyone would be shopping there on Christmas, for the Christmas holidays? But does each of these spaces represent 1 car, and if so, what is the number?
Mr. Folletta, are you looking for a response from the proponent or from the town planning department?
I'm looking for a response from the person who's making the proposal.
Okay. Mr. Adams, do you or any of your representatives want to respond to the question about parking?
Again, Mike Dryden, Waterman Design Associates. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The question was related to parking. The first phase of the project we have submitted through MIPA and studied that extensively. We're showing approximately 645 spaces for that first phase of the project. Full build, again, not as detailed and accurately defined as phase one. That's just over 2,000 parking spaces at full build. Ultimately, that would be dictated by the exact mix of uses that are placed on the plan: office, retail, restaurant, et cetera. So that's an order of magnitude number.
Further question? Do you have a follow-up, Mr. Filetta?
Follow-up question. Does that 2,000 figure also include the garage parking?
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Okay. Further questions or comments? Mr. Lapamardo?
Michael Lapamardo, Precinct 6. I guess somebody from the town probably can address this. What, if any, restrictions would be put on this development based on the current sewer and water conditions that we're in and some of the moratoriums that we have? And if so, what would that in turn give the town more control over what would ultimately go there?
Response?
Well,
Mr.
again,
Morgado?
it's going to depend upon use. Retail spaces, as shown, aren't huge water users, so accommodating that use within our existing Water Management Act restrictions can be well accounted for. Same thing on the sewer side of things. We don't anticipate any of the uses to be high water users, but we need to see an actual filing, and we need to evaluate what's being proposed before we can give a definitive response.
Just a follow-up,
Follow-up.
please. So theoretically, if any sort of a large residential component was to be considered, would some of those restrictions potentially kick in and allow the town to have more control over it?
Mr. Morgado?
Well, again, if the project is brought under the overlay, that provides us the maximum amount of control, as opposed to development as a matter of right. We know that if Article 1 is approved, that there is no residential component on any aspect of the additionally zoned property. The only residential component would be on that property contained within the overlay if the project is brought forward under the overlay provision of the bylaw.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Yes, sir, Mr. Fillier.
Mike Villiers, Precinct 8. Mr. Moderator, through you to the developer and the architect, as I look at this project, I listened to the architect, and they've done a number of high-end projects. The high-end retailers obviously bring in the most revenue. So my question would be, and I've listened to the architect and some of the prior projects that he's done, both the architect and the developer, have they done projects like this, mixed use, with high-end retail with a 40B project? Because it didn't seem like those two things would be a good match. So I'd like to get clarification from them if they've done such projects like that.
Response? Any one of you gentlemen?
I have not done a 40B project to date. We are the 40B we have looked at, the possibility of a 40B project we have looked at, and it's really in conjunction with not getting an extension of zoning. I think that if we don't get an extension of zoning and we were to do a 40B, it dramatically changes the kind of project, the underlying project that gets developed on the 18 currently acres that are currently zoned commercial with the overlay. So ideally, to have a dynamic project that includes all those uses that would require development under the overlay district, that's why we're asking for the extension of both the commercial, the rezone to the commercial, and the extension of the overlay, because it actually gives us an area to make a dynamic project. If we don't develop it that way, if we don't get the zoning, it'll be the commercial component would be a more conventional and less mixed use in our minds. And the to do a residential component in a mixed use, we don't look at that as a driving force, and to date we look at the density as much less than than could be developed under a 40B, just because of the right mix. We view the residential, if it's developed into the Lakeway, as just one of the components, not the major component. I don't know if that answers your question, but I have not done a 40B before, and Mr. Olivato just informed me that he has not done a mixed-use project that includes a 40B component.
Do you have a follow-up?
That answers that question. Can I have a follow-up, please?
Sure.
So as a follow-up, us as town meeting members as an entity, I hear a lot of people asking about tax revenue, and tax revenue is great. Obviously, we have had school constraints over the last few years. That is one component of what we do as a body. I think the other thing we need to be sensitive to are the residents that have brought up, the neighbors that abut this property. So you as the developer in other projects, maybe you can help people understand what will you do for those people to create a positive border with growing trees or whatever it may be. But I think I'd like to hear that from you, to put these residents at ease that you are sensitive to that, and you are looking to do something.
Mr. Adams?
In answer to that, I think ultimately it's governed by the planning board, whether it's developed, however it's developed. There are setback requirements and some open space requirements that are dictated in each of the zones, which Ms. Lass, I believe, put up on the screen earlier. From a developer standpoint, if that's what you're asking me, we would work with the town and with the neighbors to do something. Listen, I can't tell you that it's very subjective as to what creates privacy and what doesn't, what is robbing someone of privacy. I think everyone can make use of the land that they have in creative ways, but there are certainly restrictions and design guidelines that we would have to adhere to, and with those, we would try to design a project that impacts them the least, but still works for us. And I know, as someone who has had development done next to me, that very often when you're in adjoining property and something especially that is wooded gets developed, sometimes there's no satisfaction. Because again, everything is relative. So if it was an existing cleared parcel up at the top, the area that we're asking for rezone, or it had a Home Depot up there now, we would be at one starting point, and we are in fact at a different starting point. But we would certainly attempt to be sensitive and have some discussion, and ultimately, the board dictates what I can do up there. So I'm not trying to squeeze out of it. I can't give you a specific answer, other than we would endeavor to do something that seemed to work for everybody.
Further questions, comments? Mrs. Nichols?
Dina Nichols, Precinct 7. Question for Mr. Adams, through you, Mr. Moderator. The question is somewhat dovetailing off what was just asked. Has there been any consideration of buying out the current Oak Street homeowners, say for market value, to sort of, which would, I would assume, help your efforts and show good faith? And then, secondly, I
let's
know
just take one question at a time, Dina.
Sure.
Is there a response, Mr. Adams?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, something we have looked at. It's something we would always look at in a situation like this. There has been, it's certainly been expressed that we would like to purchase those properties if the sellers would be interested in selling them, and my experience is that sometimes people want to sell and sometimes people never want to sell. And ultimately, they own their property and they can make those decisions.
So you
Follow up,
have-
Mrs. Nichols?
Sure. Secondly, I know that Lincoln Plaza, you're associated with Lincoln Plaza. Could you give some examples of other local, because there's a certain amount of trust here, I think, in what you're delivering down the road for the town. Could you give some examples of other plazas that you've been involved with from scratch and to fruition, just to give us a sense as to what your work is like?
Sure. So Lincoln Plaza really wasn't for scratch. It was also a redevelopment, if you remember what was there. It was mostly raised, what was there, and completely redeveloped. In Hudson, I did a project called Washington Square Plaza, which included the purchase of a number of houses, not unlike the situation we have here. And that was also a redevelopment augmented project. In Webster, where the former Price Chopper was, that we did an expansion there. Milford South Plaza, we did an expansion there. Those are the ones that come to mind. But I typically I typically redevelop. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Further questions, comments with respect to Articles 1 and 2? Mrs. McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Helen McLaughlin, Precinct 10. I have a comment first and then a question. My comment is, if people here have been to the upscale section of the Natick Mall, the new section, if you remember, those residential places were advertised as being very upscale and very expensive. It didn't work out that way. And if you also remember, they had an auction some time ago, and many of them went at far, 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 far less, and some are still not sold. Also, the development in Westboro, I forget the name of it, but it has also had the component of very nice apartments. Many of you have seen them, maybe you went to the open houses. They were not as expensive in Natick, but many of them they were sold far less than they were advertised, and many of them are still empty. And even in those successful developments, you do see empty stores. So I think we look at what the town can gain from this, and that's really important. But we also have to look around and see what happens when some of these plazas and so forth do not meet the expectations that has been promised. That's my comment. Now, a question through the moderator. I think the question might have been answered, because actually I was going to ask Mr. Adams exactly what developments you had done, and you pretty much answered that by saying that you were basically a redeveloper. But in this case, you're starting from scratch. How many phases are you anticipating?
Response, Mr. Adams?
Depending on what mass, the question is how many phases. We envision anywhere from 3 to 5, depending what the total project looked like and the leasing, the amount of leasing that we are able to achieve at any given time. So within a certain time frame, 3 to 5.
One more question, Mrs. McLaughlin.
No more questions.
Oh, one more comment?
One more comment, all right.
You can have one more comment.
I just was commenting on the fact that you had said you anticipated a cinema and fitness centers and so forth, very close to where you're actually starting to build. We have a huge new fitness center, and we have very close to us, of course, Solomon Pond, which has a multiplex there. So I'm just commenting on it. It seems to me it's a huge project that may or may not be what we need right now. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Mrs. McGee.
Thank you. Melanie McGee, Precinct 5. I have a question for Ms. Lass, if I may. Do the rules, I just need a clarification on the rules of the overlay district. Does the overlay district require or merely allow a housing component?
Response, Mrs. Lass?
Just want to be clear with the question. Does the overlay district allow or require the housing component? The Lakeway Overlay District does not require a housing component. It allows a housing component by special permit through the planning board.
Further questions or comments? Yes, ma'am. With the Shrewsbury Colonial sweatshirt on.
Dadine Garnett, Precinct 2. I'd just like to follow up on the trust issue and plazas that are being developed. If I may address Mr. Adams. There is a plaza in Framingham that you're currently developing, and I've read in the paper a lot about it, that, excuse me, that there's been some issues about it with the town, and it kind of falling into disrepair. I'm not exactly sure of the complete circumstances, and that's led me to believe that I'm a little uncertain about the integrity of this project and with Fairlawn and so forth. So I understand Mrs. Nichols' concerns about this. Can you follow up on that as well? It's the Mount Waite Plaza.
Mr. Adams, the floor is yours.
Sure. I believe the question was sort of past tense, what I have developed, not what I am developing it, what I'm currently developing. So I answered the question as I heard it. We do have a project that we are almost fully entitled on in Framingham, which we have been working on for about a year and a half to gain all the entitlements. It's not a project that we can start yet. We have a couple of other entitlements to get. The entitlement process, as you can see just being here today, is very complicated. It's very long. It can take a very long time. And when you have a project with existing buildings, it is almost always a situation where people comment that it doesn't look right. Well, it doesn't look right because we're trying to get it empty so we can redevelop it. So we do maintain our properties, but we don't refurbish them prior to a demolition or a potential demolition that would be part of a redevelopment. Does that answer your question?
Further questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Bill Monahan, Precinct 10. Mr. Moderator, through you to Mr. Adams, he had made some comments about different options he would have on this project. Housing, he had mentioned, as one of the options as well. If he were to get both Amendment 1 and 2 passed this evening, can he tell us with a high level of certainty what the process would be? Would we be going what he's proposing tonight, or what are the percentages that he might go a different way?
Mr. Adams, do you want to give a response? You're not required to.
No, I'm happy to. I'm sorry, you asked a question. As I understood it, that question, if the extension, if the rezone from residential to commercial were to be approved tonight, and the extension of the overlay district were to be approved tonight, you're asking me how much residential might be on that property?
Based upon what this plan is you're presenting in the packet tonight, how certain are we that if we approve 1 and 2, that is where you are going with this project?
That it would look like the plan that we've proposed tonight?
Correct.
That is the plan that we have that has evolved over the last year and a half. Again, because of the topography, we've got a lot of constraints on this site. That is what we envision being there. Ultimately, it's exactly what gets built gets changed a number of times depending on who the tenants are. So at Lincoln Plaza, the plaza that's there now looks essentially like the first of probably 50 to 60 plans that were developed, all with, like, you know, Home Depot. There was a Home Depot footprint there once that's different than the Lowe's footprint, and Stop and Shop, and all those things get changed. But the general configuration that's proposed on this plan is something that we're comfortable with, we think works, and we would like to see there. Whether every parking space is the same, or whether every receiving area, staircase, etc., is exactly the same, probably absolutely not. It gets driven by, you know, the next level of engineering and by who ultimately the tenants are. I'm not trying to be elusive, but that's the development process.
One more, Mr. Monahan.
Clarify. So basically, at the concept level, we're looking at a retail location. If approving 1 and 2 this evening, it's not going to have a residential component.
The plan that's been put forth tonight has no residential component, other than the 2 houses, one existing and one proposed, on Maple Avenue, which would be the next 2 parcels up for where the Masons are going to be relocated. And that we're not asking for any kind of rezone on those 2 parcels. So that is correct.
Further questions, comments, discussion? Mr. Sheikh.
Rashid Sheikh, Precinct 10. We definitely appreciate more business, and we need more business in the town, and we appreciate all the support. However, we have to really look at, you know, some of the past experience. We had with all the spirit, we approve a similar project, and every time we approve that project, of course, we disheart some of the residents, and those residents have big heart and they finally understand. However, I believe we have been bitten by some of the projects we have allowed, like the hotel about 5 years ago. Unfortunately, that did not happen so far. So I'm just curious that since we are giving special permission, we are, converting a residential to commercial, I wonder if there are any special conditions we can put in place where we assure, number one, time constraint, that the project will be completed in certain time frame, because it did not happen in the past. Secondly, can we condition that only commercial can be built, because what I'm hearing, people don't have a problem with the commercial, they're willing to sacrifice, but then they are concerned that what we are given today, it may not be, when it's get developed. So I'm not sure if we can put those conditions, and if we can, then if we can, somebody can elaborate on that. Thank you.
Response, Mrs. Lass or Mr. Morgado?
We cannot place a condition on a rezoning where we say that something has to be done within a certain period of time and the rezoning gets revoked. When I say we, myself and the Board of Selectmen bring forward a project with a developer, we bring forward what we believe is a sincere project, as we did for the Holiday Inn Express. When that presentation was made here this evening, that gentleman was fully confident that the financing for that project was going to occur. Subsequent to the town meeting action, a whole lot of things happened in the financial community. I'm sure most of us here in the room were affected by that. His financing was affected, and as a result of that, the deal was lost. And he continues to endeavor to try to do something there. That being said, if nothing ventured, nothing gained. Okay, so if we take the position that we're never going to work with a developer because the potential is that the project is going to fall through and we're going to look bad, then we're not doing our jobs. So, we don't vouch for developers. We don't vet them to the extent that we check their financials or what kind of financing they have. We deal with them on a professional basis, and we bring forward as a professional presentation as we can to town meeting. In this case here, what you have are two proposals. The first proposal in Article 1 extends commercial business zoning to an additional 9.6 acres. Within that area, the only thing that can be built is commercial business. Second question brings the overlay district to just about 10.5 acres. In that instance, the developer has the ability, if he so chooses, to develop the project, taking advantage of the overlay. He just responded to an earlier question that it's his intention, if 1 and 2 is passed, to develop the project that you were presented with, the drawing approximate as you came in the door, of which there is no aspect of it is residential. That's what the representation is to you today. I can't vouch for it. No one can vouch for that. Only Mr. Adams understands the nature of the business dealings that he's developed.
Can I just have a clarification?
Go ahead, Mr. Shake, one more question.
I would just get, so we cannot put any time constraint with the bond?
No.
The bond?
No, because again, this is a rezoning. So what we're saying is the zoning, which is currently B1, is B1 or B2? B1? B1 would go to commercial business. That's what the action is tonight. And if town meeting approves that, then he has the ability to then formally bring forth his proposals. And at that point in time, we can question him to a greater extent as to what is the nature of what you're doing, what's the phasing, what kind of tenants you're talking about. Very similar to the process that we've been employing on the project Grossman Development, where we've had the announcement, for instance, of the Whole Foods, and there'll be additional announcements coming forward. In fact, there was a meeting today where some additional designs were reviewed.
Further questions, comments, discussion? Mr. Campanello.
Campanello, Precinct 6. Mr. Moderator, I'd like to move the question, please.
Is there a second to that motion? Okay, a motion for the previous question has been made and seconded. Folks, because of the way we've discussed these articles so far tonight, Articles 1 and 2 together, I believe that I must treat this motion as a motion to end debate only on Article 1, since we can't vote on both articles at the same time. So I'm going to treat this as a motion to end debate on Article 1. Certainly anyone is free to make a similar motion later on this evening on Article 2. But for right now, this is a motion to end debate on the article. The motion is not debatable and must be voted on immediately. A vote in favor of the motion is a vote to end discussion of Article 1 and proceed to an immediate vote on the motion under Article 1. A no vote is a vote to continue the discussion of Article 1. This motion requires a majority vote to pass. Okay, we're going to proceed immediately to a vote on the motion for the previous question as to Article 1. Will all those in favor of the motion to end debate on Article 1 please signify by saying aye? Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. I think the ayes have it. If there are 7 people who want to question that vote and call for a standing vote, I'll entertain your hands. Okay, I see none, and I'm going to continue on and saying we'll now proceed to an immediate vote on the motion under Article 1. This motion requires a two-thirds vote to pass since it involves an amendment of the zoning bylaw. Will all those in favor of the printed motion under Article 1 please signify by saying aye? Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. Again, I'm satisfied that that motion has passed by the requisite two-thirds vote. If there is anyone here who wants to challenge that and proceed to a standing vote, I'll entertain those questions. I think it's pretty clear that that motion passed by two-thirds, so I'm going to rule that Article 1 has passed. We'll now proceed to continue the discussion on Article 2. Are there any further comments, questions, discussions regarding the motion under Article 2, which is the motion to amend the Lakeway District Overlay map? Mrs. McCollum?
Beth McCollum, Precinct 8. Now that Article 1 has passed, if Article No is voted down, would the developer be able to build the proposed example that he gave?
Response?
Yes.
Mr. Morgado?
Yes. Provided he falls within all the parameters of the underlying zoning regarding the setbacks and all the other density issues, all the items that are contained within the bylaw as represented in summary form by the slide that you saw earlier, unless Mr. Adams wants to dispute what I've just said. And he does not.
Follow-up question?
Go ahead.
Would it also then prohibit residential on further projects,
Mr. Morgado?
other than 40B?
Sure. Absent 40B, again, since the overlay district would not extend into this additional 10 acres, a little over 10, like about 10 and a half acres, that portion of the project could not be brought forward as a project as defined under the overlay district. He could, however, take advantage of the existing overlay district that exists and propose a project in those areas which would have, through the restrictions and requirements, have a residential component.
Are there further questions or comments with respect to Article 2? Mr. Lapamardo?
Michael Lapamardo, Precinct 6. I'd just like to make a comment here that I think Mr. Adams has been very forthcoming this evening in answering the questions to the best of his ability. And when we did years ago pass the overlay district, I think there was a lot of discussion, and one of the reasons we did that was that we wanted to have, as a town, more flexibility in doing projects and doing things that would be more amenable to the area. And again, as someone commented before, not just having the big box store with the big parking lot in front of it. And our finance committee is in favor of this. I think we need to put some trust in our planning board and our planner and our town officials that they will hold the developer to the standards that the overlay district requires and get the best project that's going to benefit the town the most out of that. And based on that, I think we should vote in favor of Article 2. Thank you.
Mr. Morgado, did you want to add something to your previous comment?
I just want to, in my earlier response, there's a technical aspect of this which requires that a project include the overlay. So as I described the scenario, it's very possible that that might require two, in fact, projects to be created. One project would be that project which would affect the properties which are not within the overlay, and then another project for those properties within the overlay. So there may be the need to actually create separate projects in order to develop what is now just about more or less one parcel under two different aspects of the bylaw. I just wanted to make that clear.
Further
I don't
questions?
think if I made that clear.
Further questions, comments with respect to Article 2? Mr. Lukacs.
John Lukacs, Precinct 2. So I just want to follow up on the previous speaker. So we passed Article 1. So as presented to us tonight, the project proposal could be built even if Article 2 is defeated. And so if that's the case, I see no reason why we shouldn't defeat Article 2 to avoid the possibility, I understand it's only a possibility, but to avoid the possibility of having any more residential units being built over there than we currently than currently is allowed. I just can't see why we should be so concerned about developing commercial that we have to bend over backwards, and by doing so risk the possibility that we increase the potential number of housing units in this town. So I urge people to vote no on this particular article. Thank you.
Further questions or comments with respect to Article 2? Okay, there being none. Did you see it? Is there a hand up in the air? I'm sorry, ma'am. Mr. Thompson is so tall, his head blocked your hand. Please stand up. Take the mic.
Hi, Alana Drost, Precinct 10. It's a follow-up question, really, but what are we forego by not passing 2? What benefits or what are we giving up if we do not pass the second one?
Mr. Morgado or Mrs. Last, do you want to take a stab at that?
I think we should ask the proponent to answer that question.
Mr. Moderator.
Somebody, anybody.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Kane.
Prior to asking the proponent to speak to the benefits or Ms. Lass, I do think it's worth to ask your consideration that the Lakeway Business District actually allows, with a much greater degree of control, vibrancy. It allows for a much more cohesive, integrated plan. And though the concern for housing is certainly one that the board holds nearly and dearly, we know it's 3- and 4-bedroom colonials in our town that generate the children. Studios, 1-bedrooms, 2-bedrooms don't generate the children. They generate a place where young people with disposable income can actually stay in the town they grew up in for a period of time while they try to save to buy a home in town. So as you think about this question, it's been confused because of the graphic showing that apartment on land that proponent doesn't even own. Please try to focus in on not just what might happen that might be bad, but think, in fact, if we got the proponent or a partner of the proponent or some individual who enters the fray in the future with the proponent or without, who actually comes up with one hell of a creative, vibrant proposal for that location, complete with the buffer zones that we all want for the neighbors, complete with the full-blown, what will be Mass DOT mandated traffic study, all of those things. By voting no, you simply limit the possibilities. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Mr. Collins.
Peter Collins, Precinct 4. Great speech. One question I have about that, though, is, we just rezoned this property fairly blindly. We don't know what's going in there, and we don't know well, at least for sure what's going in there. No one could answer a question definitively at this time because they just don't know what's going to happen based on a whole bunch of different things. If the project goes as proposed or as we saw it, as it was shown, I love it. I think it's great. And I like the vibrancy issue. But one thing you just said kind of raised concerns, and that is after we get this thing zoned, I mean, the value of this property right now is one thing, one kind of value. And I'm not going to bother asking what that is, but I'm assuming that once this property, the zoning in this property, and this, all you have to do is change the zoning in the property and change it into an overlay district, and this property is going to be worth a whole lot more. So what we saw tonight may never even happen. The developer that we are talking to right now may not even be in the picture. As you just said, it could be him, it could be somebody else. And when that comes up and they decide they want to build something vibrant, I don't see why we can't wait, because we held a special town meeting tonight to vote on this, why we can't wait till we have a project. Even with the hotel, he had a definitive project. I'm going to build this. He worked with the neighborhood to build privacy. He was going to put this in there and a restaurant. We knew what he was going to build. We didn't know that the money wasn't syndicated. We didn't know any of that, but we had an idea of what the project was going to be. This project, we have no idea. And when you do this, you know, that's what developers do. They take land, they add value to it, and they make a profit. This is an easy way to do that, and, well, not an easy way to do it, but it's a way to do it, and you don't even have to build anything on it. So that's my concern with this, and I don't see why we have to rush into this at this point and say, okay, we're going to change the into an overlay district to make it easy for a project that may or may not happen with a developer that may or may not be in the room right now.
Are there further questions or comments with respect to Article 2? Mrs. Deering.
Martha Deering, Precinct 4. What I keep hearing is people worrying about what might or might not happen. If we don't take any risks, nothing will ever happen, and we will continue to have the financial problems that we've been complaining about for years. I think sometimes we just have to bite the bullet, take the risk, and have some trust.
Further questions or comments with respect to Article 2? Yes, ma'am.
Dating Gunn at Precinct 2. The one part of the plan that seems to have stayed consistent is the 180,000 square foot fitness center, which is not in line with what the Lakeway Overlay District says you can build within the 80,000 square foot building code for that district. So if he's asking to change the Lakeway Overlay and use the Lakeway Overlay, then that 180,000 square foot building is not even, I don't know how to say it, I'm sorry. It's not even in compliance with what he's asking us to change for the other. So it seems to me like the only reason that he's asking for the Lakeway Overlay District for the other part is the housing component. And I'm sorry, Mr. Kane, but I don't know if you've driven by any of the apartment complexes to see the busfuls of children that come out of those. So I have to disagree with you with the number of children that come out of those apartments. And I think we'd be doing a great disservice to our town if we allow housing to go into those. Thank you.
Further questions or comments regarding Article 2? Mr. Hogan.
Matt Hogan, Precinct 3. I just want to respond to the most recent speaker and to Mr. Kane's comments and also to Mrs. Deering's comments. We can never get a project in which we will be absolutely guaranteed of what we're going to get. That doesn't happen that way. People come into town, they want to do something in the town, they ask us if we can make some changes so that they can do the project. To the best of our ability, we vet the project, and if we think it's good for the town, we propose it. Sometimes the proponent has little intention to follow through. That's rare. These people are in business. There's nothing wrong with them being in business. If they make money, it's good for the town. The hotel didn't go through because we had the Great Depression. Who are we going to blame that for? We can't blame town meeting and say we didn't fully vet them, we didn't think about this, we rushed into it. We need to make decisions that can move our town forward. I'm not into the conspiracy theory that the only reason that the developer wants to do this is so that he can get the residential in there. That's not what I'm hearing today. What I witnessed today was somebody who I thought was working very carefully not to overpromise. Every time somebody asked him a question, he said, well, these are some of the problems. I don't know the gentleman, I've never met him. But I think that we put the Lakeway District in for a reason. I think we should do it, and I think it's town meeting's responsibility not to make sure that everything is guaranteed, but it's town meeting's responsibility to make thoughtful decisions. And I am in favor of Article 2.
Are there any further questions or comments with respect to Article 2?
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Kane?
if I could, to the gentleman from Precinct 4, I think that, though I agree with your assertion that if in fact town meeting passes a zoning change, some degree of value is applied to a piece of property, until you have all of your entitlements, you don't have that real value. And if you vote for Article 2 as you did for Article 1, you add some value, there's no doubt about that. But whether it's this proponent or a proponent a year from now, that proponent has to go through the same, what I would describe, onerous process with the planning board for the Lakeway Business District, should they choose to accept that. And to the gentle lady from Precinct 2, I would simply note that in Madison Place, there are 96 total units. And in 2013, there are 13 school children. So though the number of units can often be seen as a scary number, what translates through as to getting on a bus or showing up at the public school system every day is very much dependent on the unit makeup, studio, first, second bedroom. Thank you very much.
Further questions or comments? Yes, ma'am. Yep, sorry. Next to...
Hi, Mary Icardi, Precinct 5. I'd like to move the question.
Okay, is there a second? Motion has been made to move the previous question and seconded. This is, again, to remind you folks, a motion to end debate, and the motion itself is not debatable. A vote in favor of this motion is a vote to end discussion of Article 2 and proceed to an immediate vote on the motion under Article 2. A no vote is a vote to continue the discussion of Article 2. This motion requires a majority vote to pass. Would all those in favor of the motion to end debate on Article 2 please signify by saying aye?
Aye.
All those opposed to the motion to end debate on Article 2 please signify by saying no. And the motion passes. We will now proceed to an immediate vote on the motion under Article 2. This motion also requires a 2/3 vote to pass, since it involves an amendment of the town zoning bylaw. We will proceed according to our town meeting bylaw and try a voice vote first again. If there is any doubt as to the sufficiency of the voice vote, then we will immediately proceed to a standing vote. And I didn't ask you this earlier, but I really appreciate the fact that everybody seemed to vote using their normal voices last time and not trying to shout to multiply the number of votes coming out of your mouth. So please, again, speak in your normal tone of voice when you vote. Would all those in favor of the motion under Article 2 please signify by saying aye?
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying no. I think I'm going to ask for a standing vote on this one. I think there's just a little bit of doubt in my mind.
Yeah, Mr. Moderator?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Selectman Miller can't stand. Can she record her vote with you?
I'm sorry?
Can she record her vote?
Yes.
Than before.
Okay.
Do you want us to pick you? You want us to
Okay, tellers, would you please prepare to take the count? Please, folks, just let's have a little order. We're almost at the end of these articles. Would all those in favor of the motion under Article 2 please stand and remain standing until I ask for you to be seated?
Oh, she's up. Look at that. What a trooper. What's up with that one? What's up with that one?
You all looked like you needed to stretch your legs.
39?
Sorry, say that again, please.
39?
Yeah,
39.
I was way up.
12?
12.
He's on the train.
32.
32.
$46.
46. We have the stage, Sandy? Okay, would everyone who voted yes please sit down? All those opposed to the motion under Article 2, please stand.
Nine.
9,
7.
7,
6.
6,
4.
4. Stage? 0. Okay, folks, you can sit down while we tally the votes and determine the number of people voting, and then we can determine from that the number of votes required to pass.
So what do you need to, I'm sorry, I know, of what number?
I get
29, 169?
Oh, yeah, right. You need 112.
Yeah.
You got it by,
So 130.
Oh, Jesus.
what was the stage count?
Okay, folks, the votes as tabulated by the town clerk are total number of people voting, 166. Yes, 140, no, 26. 111 votes would be required to pass by 2/3, so the Article 2 passes by a vote of 2/3. We will now proceed to the printed motion under Article 3. Mr. Kane.
Mr. Moderator, I move the printed motion under Article 3.
Okay, the printed motion under Article 3 has been moved and seconded. And this is a motion, the article proposes to transfer $610,000 from free cash to the water system improvements account. Mr. Morgado, explanation?
It's annually when free cash gets certified, and this year it was certified at $5,580,257. We always do an analysis to determine how did the water operation influence that free cash balance. This year, I should say fiscal year 14, the impact on that free cash balance from water revenue flowing into the general fund was worth $609,555. Thus, the request to move $610,000 from free cash to water system improvements in order for the community to capture all water revenue for the purposes of the water utility.
Okay, Finance Committee recommendation, Mr. Masiello?
Finance Committee unanimously recommended approval.
Okay, questions or comments with respect to the motion under Article 3? Okay, there being none that I can see, and this motion requiring a majority vote to pass, would all those in favor of the printed motion under Article 3 please signify by saying aye? Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. And the motion passes unanimously. Article 4, Mr. Kane?
Mr. Moderator, I move the printed article under Article 4, the printed motion. Sorry about that.
Second.
Okay, the printed motion under Article 4 as amended and handed out to you earlier this evening is to, I'm sorry, that's Article 4 is the printed motion you received in the mail, forgive me. That's a motion to transfer the sum of $100,000 from the water system improvements account to fund costs associated with pilot testing manganese removal systems at the water treatment facility. Mr. Morgado? any comments?
Our water system has manganese it's in the ground. It's a naturally occurring mineral that makes its way into our water supply. At times, it's troublesome to us There are some instances where we are seeing some higher levels of manganese. Mr. Tezewski has asked for $100,000 in order to pilot test two technologies to determine what would be the viability of doing some additional treatment at our treatment facility, which would remove manganese from the water supply.
Questions or comments with respect to Article 4? Is that Mr. Joseph? Okay. You got to sit up a little straighter, chick. Mr. Joseph, the mic is yours.
All right, thank you. Can anybody tell me what manganese does to the water? The reason I'm asking is because our water lately has tasted terrible. And I called Mr. Tedeschi. And, you know, we have a bad tasting water.
Okay.
And I wonder if everybody else is getting, I would like to know if it's manganese that's giving us the problem.
Response, Mr. Tezewski, Department Head of the Water and Sewer Department.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. To your point, and I'd just like to go and get a little more detail to what the town manager was saying. Manganese is a naturally occurring mineral that's been in our water since really the wells have been developed over there. And it's very common in groundwater sources. It comes from rocks, it comes from soil formations. And right now, if you get above, it's a secondary standard according to DEP, it's 0.05 milligrams per liter or parts per million. You get above that, you do get staining. You could get some odors in the water from that manganese and other chemicals that we put in there to treat right now, which is a phosphate sequestering. When you get to higher levels, there's been some studies, or limited studies, that give some health concerns, especially for susceptible population, younger children on that. So that's what we're trying to do now. So we have two problems. We have an aesthetic problem, so we can get some black particles in the water. You get some staining in fixtures. You could get some potential odors. We do get some limited calls on that, not throughout the whole town, but certainly residents call, and we try to address that by flushing out the system and doing other various maintenance type of items to that there. So it is a problem one way, like Mr. Joseph said, aesthetically, and there's a second problem that we're trying to address on some potential health concerns, especially for the susceptible population, the younger and the more elderly in the population.
There's a specification to the government. Are we over that specification, or how close are we to that, to exceeding it, or just under it?
Response, Mr. Tezewski.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Manganese is classified as a secondary contaminant, which is 0.05. Through 2012, 2013, we were between 0.1 and 0.2. This year, we've had a couple samples up around the 0.3 range, which is an issue of concern. So we do exceed the secondary standards for aesthetics, and we're getting up or have exceeded the secondary standard of 0.3. That is concerning for some potential health hazards.
Further questions or comments with respect to Article 4? Finance Committee recommendation, Mr. Masiello.
Finance Committee unanimously recommended approval of this article.
Okay, folks, one last look around the room. Any other questions? Okay, who knows what the periodic table of elements says about manganese? What's the symbol? I don't know either.
No.
Okay, if there are no further comments or questions.
Mg is magnesium.
That's right.
There being no further questions and this motion requiring a majority vote to pass, would all those in favor of the printed motion under Article 4 please signify by saying aye? Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. And the motion passes unanimously. Article 5, Mr. Kane.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to raise the sum of $50,000 to the Other Post-Employment Benefits Trust.
Second.
Okay, the printed motion under Article 5 as amended by the yellow sheet that you received tonight when you came in has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments with respect to Article 5? Okay, there, Mr. Joseph.
Can somebody tell me what it is? Oh, Everett Joseph, Precinct 6. Can somebody tell me what the other post-employment trust is?
Yes.
Mr. Morgado.
That was a trust established by town meeting a few years ago, of which we've made some investment in. Balance currently is $2,087,000, of which all but $418,528 actually is on Selco's account. What OPEB is, other post-employment benefits, is primarily retiree health insurance. We have two liabilities relative to the benefit structures for our current employees and retirees. One is the pension system itself, where we have a very aggressive funding schedule, which will have our pension system funded at 100% by 2022. The second, which is actually a much larger liability, is the liability to provide retiree health insurance to our retirees for the period of their retirement. The current plan is to fund our pension obligation or unfunded liability aggressively through 2022, and then starting in 2023, begin to make payments into the OPEB trust. There's currently no funding requirement for OPEB. There is a funding requirement for pensions. By putting money into this account on a periodic basis, it'll reduce the need to make additional appropriations at some point in time in the future. So it's in effect, we're funding our ongoing liability.
Further questions or comments? Mr. Adler.
Mark Adler, Precinct 1. I know this is the time of year where we are settling our tax rate based on, and the levy capacity based on that tax rate. It says in your memo that we received tonight that you're advised that we have $100,000 of excess, of that much levy capacity exists. Is that the exact figure, or is it just at a little bit more than that, or some amount more than that, which affords us $100,000 that we can divide between these two articles?
Yeah,
Mr. Morgado.
It's an approximate number. We're never going to get unused levy capacity to zero based upon how the tax recapitulation sheet operates. It's an approximation, getting us as close as we possibly can. We'll make final adjustments just prior to the tax classification hearing so that the actual unused levy capacity will be kept to its smallest possible amount. But it is some sum of money greater than $100,000 at the moment, so we feel comfortable. We'll take $100,000 off the table, and then we'll make adjustments up to the tax recapitulation.
Further questions or comments? Mr. Lukács.
John Lukács, Precinct 2. Could the town manager tell us what the current unfunded liability is for OPEB? Nearest estimate, and by comparison, what the number is for the pension unfunded.
Yeah, I don't, if I go on to the internet, we've got, actually have that on our website. This will only take a second, folks.
I didn't need the exact number. Rough numbers would have been fine.
Well, you know me and rough numbers.
Except
Through
when
the
you're doing
miracle
illustrations.
of the tablet device.
The pension number as of January 1/14 was $32 million.
And OPEB?
OPEB, that report is really out of date. We're getting one done as of June 30th. So that report was as of June 30th, 2012. And that number on a pay-as-you-go basis was $67.9 million.
Further
50,000
questions?
Just
Mr.
$50,000 is just a drop in the bucket, too. whatever.
Well, it is a drop in the bucket, but it's more than other folks are doing. And it also allows me, in my next Moody's call, to tell the folks that, we are making progress. We also are able to talk to them about the 2022 pension funding, which is among the most aggressive in the state. I know we could, for instance, back off of our pension funding schedule and then make a more aggressive in OPEB, but then that would push out our funding schedule and pensions. We view it all as unfunded liability has to get paid. So the approach we're taking is move aggressively in pensions and then move to OPEB. I will tell you that the number of 67.8, I'll be curious to see when our new valuation is done. I think that number is going to come down because the parameters of what we were looking at in the way of retiree health care in 2012 is going to be different than in 2014, based upon some of the assumptions that we're now able to make based upon the current environment of health insurance versus what we were looking back in 2012. But we will take the 50,000 put on account and be proud of it.
Further questions or comments with respect to Article 5? Okay, there being none, and this motion requiring a majority vote to pass, will all those in favor of the printed motion under Article 5 as amended, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no, and the motion passes unanimously. Article 6, Mr. Kane.
I move that the town vote to raise the sum of $50,000 to the stabilization fund.
Second.
Okay, the motion has been moved and seconded under Article 6 that the town vote to raise the sum of $50,000 and add it to the stabilization fund. Mr. Morgado, any explanation?
Current stabilization fund balance, $358,744.
Questions or comments with respect to Article 6? Okay, there being none, this motion requiring a 2/3 vote to pass, since it involves a transfer to the stabilization fund, we'll follow our normal procedure and take a voice vote first. If there's any doubt as to the sufficiency of the vote, then we will immediately proceed to a standing vote. Would all those in favor of the motion under Article 6 please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. And the motion passes unanimously by a 2/3 vote. And then some. Article 7, Mr. Kane.
Mr. Moderator, I move the printed motion under Article 7.
Second.
Okay, the printed motion under Article 7 has been moved and seconded that the town vote to accept the sum of $980,722 from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 90, Local Transportation Aid. Mr. Morgado?
This is our fiscal 2015 allocation. We actually got notice of this on April 7th after we had set the annual town meeting. So just a housekeeping item. The action would be to accept the 98722, put it on account, Highway Department for projects not specified at this moment. What will happen is we'll develop projects over the winter, and this funding will be expended over the next construction season.
Finance Committee, recommendations on Articles 6 and 7.
Finance
I
Committee.
think I forgot to ask you on Article 6, John.
Finance Committee unanimously recommended approval of those articles.
Thank you. Any questions or comments with respect to Article 7? There being none, and this motion requiring a majority vote to pass, would all those in favor of the printed motion under Article 7 please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no, and the motion passes unanimously. Article 8, Mr. Kane.
Mr. Moderator, I move the printed motion under Article 8.
Second.
Printed motion under Article 8 has been moved and seconded, authorizing the authorizing the Board of Selectmen to negotiate a tax agreement pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 38H, and to approve a tax agreement with 10K Energy LLC and the town of Shrewsbury. Finance Committee recommendation, Mr. Masiello?
Finance Committee unanimously recommended approval of this article.
Okay, Mr. Gregory, you want to speak to this article?
Mr. Moderator. Article 8 asks town meeting members to authorize a tax agreement with 10K Energy LLC in accordance with General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 38H, to facilitate the collection of real and personal property taxes associated with the development of a large-scale solar array on a capped portion of the town's landfill, approximately 12.6 acres of land known as Phases 3 and 4. A few important steps have already taken place to get us where we are this evening. On October 30th, 2012, town meeting authorized the town manager to amend the existing host agreement with Wheeler-Brader Millbury to allow the construction and operation of a solar array to be located at the landfill. The town will soon be concluding these negotiations. On February 24th of this year, a use special permit was granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals to allow the solar facility on the landfill. On June 18th of this year, the town issued an invitation to bid to competitively procure a solar developer. On July 28th, 10K Energy LLC was selected based on the 20-year land lease proposal submitted by the developer. The tax agreement, which town meeting is being asked to authorize this evening, is the mechanism which will capture the two additional revenue streams to the town: personal property taxes on the value of the installation and equipment, and real estate taxes on the portion of the land which will support the commercial enterprise. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments with respect to Article 8? Tom, did you note that this was one of the handouts tonight?
And I should. In the handout this evening is a revised payment schedule that's contained within the tax agreement, which reflects the most current negotiations the town has had with the developer.
That's on the yellow sheet, folks, if you flip it over. Questions or comments with respect to Article 8? Yes, sir.
Elliot Scott, Precinct 9. Just looking at the revised proposal, I'm getting the impression that the real estate taxes for these folks are basically going to stay the same over the next 20 years. Is that my proper understanding?
Right, that's correct.
Response, Mr. Gregory.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. That's correct. The real estate tax portion of the payment schedule was a point of contention with the developer, and we were able to arrive at a flat payment for the real estate portion. I'll note that the payment on the personal property escalates as we had originally intended.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions or comments with respect to Article 8? Mr. Lukács.
John Lukács, Precinct 2. Second paragraph says negotiations with WMI have not been concluded. What is the substance of those negotiations, and doesn't the satisfactory conclusion of those negotiations, isn't that required before you can go ahead with this?
Response, Mr. Morgado.
We're still working out details with Wheeler-Brader on actually 3 issues. One is the solar array, the other is the metal recycling, and the third is the overall financing structure of the agreement. We're at the point now where language is being exchanged. We have an agreement. We think in principle, we just need to work out the details. This agreement is conditioned upon us making a deal with Wheeler-Brader.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions or comments, Mr. Sheikh?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I see that the lease is increasing. The personal property is actually decreasing, right?
Mr. Sheikh, could you just hold the mic closer?
Yes. So the lease is increasing as we move forward into year 1 to year 20. The real estate tax now is kind of flat, but the personal property tax is decreasing. Now I understand that the capital value will decrease if the capital stays the same, but I'm sure they will be replenishing the capital. So how do we, negotiate the personal property rate on the declining scale.
Mr. Gregory.
When we procured this developer, it was explicit in the invitation to bid that the lease payment would be fixed on a per kilowatt basis. What was also fixed in the procurement was that the personal property taxes would factor in a 5% depreciation over time. So that was part of the formula that we stated explicitly in the solicitation.
Further, Mr. Sheikh, a follow-up?
So it's the initial personal property, but how does, if they kind of put more capital, more personal property into it, how does that get figured into it?
Mr. Gregory?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Moderator. A tax agreement allows for adjustments, positive or negative. So that's something that would be assessed by the principal assessor on a yearly basis, whether more of the asset is constructed or less is taken away.
Thank you.
Further questions, comments regarding Article 8? Okay, there being none, and this motion requiring a majority vote to pass. Would all those in favor of the printed motion under Article 8 please signify by saying aye? Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. And the motion passes unanimously. Article 9.
Mr. Moderator, I move the printed motion under Article 9.
Second.
The printed motion under Article 9 has been moved and seconded that the town amend the zoning map by rezoning land located at 420 Boston Turnpike, which is currently zoned Residence B1, to commercial business. Finance Committee recommendation, Mr. Masiello.
Finance Committee unanimously recommended approval of this article.
Presentation, Mrs. Lass.
Yes, while Mr. Gregory is bringing up the presentation, I believe there is a letter from the planning board.
Let me take note of a letter that I received from the town clerk tonight. A copy of the letter from the chairman of the planning board to town clerk Sandra Wright, dated September 22nd, stating that on September 22nd, the planning board held a public hearing regarding the zoning amendment proposed by Article 9, and at the close of the hearing, the planning board voted unanimously to recommend approval of Article 9. Mrs. Lass.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Kristen Lass, Principal Planner and Economic Development Coordinator. Article 9 is the exact same article that you saw last September at the special town meeting to rezone a portion of land located off 420 Boston Turnpike from Residence B1 to commercial business. And I just want to be clear about a few things, so I'm going to use my laser pointer and the slide up here. The area of land that we're talking about, this is Route 9 here. This is Oak Street right here. This property here is 420 Boston Turnpike. Some of you may know it as where the flea market is now located. As you'll see on the map before you, the commercial business district is located in the yellow, and the Residence B1 is located in a blue-green, sea green type color. You'll notice that a very small portion of land, approximately 26,000 square feet, on the 420 Boston Turnpike property is zoned Residence B1. Tom, next slide, please. This slide gives you an aerial perspective. Route 9 is across the top, Oak Street up and down. This area here is zoned multifamily residence 1, that's the Sheridan Apartments. The area in here is zoned Residence B1, and then commercial business in here above this red line. You'll notice as you drive by, or if you see on this map, there's currently a driveway here off of Oak Street to access 420 Boston Turnpike. There's also a right turn in, right turn out on Route 9 to access 420 Boston Turnpike. Through our zoning bylaw, it states that if a lot is a split lot, which means if it has two zoning districts, in which 420 does, that 30 feet into that other zone can be used for the other district. So to be clear, approximately 30 feet on either side of this area can be used for commercial business on that piece of property. Also, you'll see that a portion of the Residence B1 district is actually in the Oak Street right-of-way, right here. So even though we're asking for a rezoning of 26,000 square feet, we're really only asking for a small portion to be rezoned commercial business on 420 Boston Turnpike. The reason why we are asking for this article again, the selectmen have brought this forward on the town meeting warrant, is that currently at 420 Boston Turnpike, we have a flea market and some other uses that are very underutilized on the site. Oak Street is a signalized intersection on Route 9. Through the Master Plan Steering Committee meetings, Planning Board meetings, and Board of Selectmen meetings, the town, through those boards, we feel that this property is ripe for redevelopment. And we feel that the property will not be redeveloped if there is a split lot provision and a portion is zoned Residence B1. There is a need for access to this property off of Oak Street if it were to ever be redeveloped, as we understand from Mass DOT and some other studies. Additionally, this property currently owes taxes of about $163,000. There's a very good chance that the town may actually have to acquire this property through tax title, and we want to ensure that it's set up in terms of zoning to provide maximum development capacity if the town does have to sell that property and provide for that opportunity. So at this time, the town meeting is asked to approve the rezoning of approximately 26,000 square feet of Residence B1 to commercial business, which is located on the 420 Boston Turnpike property, as well as the Oak Street right-of-way. And the developer has been made aware of this request, and they are in agreement that this should be done. I'll take any questions if there are any.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Less. Questions, comments relating to Article 9? Mr. Joseph.
Everett Joseph, Precinct 6. We voted against it the last time because we wanted to make sure that the driveway never could be accessed from Oak Street. What is changing in the thought process that we feel that we should now change it to business so an access point can be brought in from Oak Street and egress as well?
Mr. Moderator.
Response, Mr. Kane?
Quite frankly, folks, the reason it's being brought back to you is if we ever want to see this piece of property move forward, one of the first thing appraisers and bankers look at is the consistency of zoning. And when one of your means of egress and exit does not have the consistency of zoning, it puts one of those question marks, and that's what we were talking about before. And with every question mark, you get one step further from an appraiser having a good value and one step further from a financing entity actually financing the change. Frankly, if people are comfortable with 420 Turnpike and the uses that are going on at that building and the condition of the facility, fine, it's that simple. However, if you want to give it a fighting chance to crawl forward, particularly if we have to go all the way through with tax title, and we all wind up having a real interest in this, then we ask you to vote yes. It comes down to a cleanliness of the parcel and the cleanliness of zoning, which leads directly to appraising and the willingness to finance for a project.
Are you concerned, excuse me, Ms. Moderator.
Follow up,
can
Mr.
I
Joseph.
follow up? If you're concerned about the town owning it or the person who owns it now?
I'm concerned about the current state of it and trying to see what steps we can legitimately take to afford it a better life, a better future with development, because this all comes back, Mr. Joseph, to the graphic we saw last year of how do we create value in those two thin strips of non-residential development opportunities we have along Route 9 and Route 20.
One more question. How do we protect?
One more.
How do we protect the fact that the people in the other meeting were much stronger than I am about not letting people go in and out of that road because Oak Street was going to be a problem?
Sure.
How
you
do
know
we
what?
protect it?
If we change the zoning this evening, all that does is afford a change in zoning. it takes one step forward. You still need someone then with the wherewithal to undertake the project, the ability to gain financing, and ultimately the ability to sit before the folks who come to planning board meetings or zoning board of appeals meetings and secure the entitlements to have a project go forward. This is, if you will, the very basic step, almost similar to what we did at Spags, where we took care of, cleared all that underbrush. This is an important piece of zoning underbrush that ought to be changed.
Further questions or comments? Mr. Sheikh?
Rashid Sheikh, Precinct 10. I'm sorry for this naive question, but who is the applicant for making this change? Is this the town, or is it the owner, current owner? We are not the current owner, correct?
No.
Response?
No, we are not the current owner.
So who's the applicant?
Response, Mr.
The
Kane.
Board of Selectmen brought this forward for town meeting's consideration. There's no applicant involved. We sponsored the item before you this evening for your consideration to take care of this technical change to this portion of the zoning.
So my concern is I'm sorry, may I?
One more question.
So there are some traffic concerns there, and also if we don't really own the property yet, and somebody else owns it, we increase the value, then really we don't have the applicant coming forward, and they don't really have any plans for the traffic flow. And if we are increasing their value, I don't understand why we would be the applicant.
Response, Mr. Kane?
I think the board, and then I believe the planning board as well, felt very comfortable that the way you deal with this piece of property as one of the key pieces along Route 9 is to deal with this underlying zoning challenge for the second means of egress and access. I would assert the same thing as I said earlier. This zoning change today just cleans up the zoning. It does nothing to afford them anything in the way of permitting or entitlement or the financing required to go forward with any type of future project.
Further questions, comments? Ms. Deering, did you have a question?
Martha Deering, Precinct 4. I haven't been on that property recently, but about 15 or 20 years ago, it was much more vibrant commercially, and that driveway was being used commercially all the time. I don't know if it's open now, but I didn't hear anybody complaining about it at the time. That driveway is still there, and people still use it.
Are there any further questions or comments? Mr. Lapamardo?
Michael Lapamardo, Precinct 6. Through you to Mrs. Loss. You mentioned with that 30-foot overlay, et cetera, do you have a rough idea or an actual figure of how much of the 26,000 square feet is actually really being changed? Because the rest of it is already falling into that use by zoning.
Sure.
Mrs. Lass?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just rough calculations, about 8,300 square feet can currently be used as commercial business on the 420 Boston Turnpike property, and approximately 3,000 square feet is in that Oak Street right-of-way. So that remaining value would be the actual meat of the change.
So it's a little more than half of what is there is already capable of being used
Right, we're
as part
really
of that.
rezoning about, I think it's about 14 to 15,000 square feet.
Thank you.
Mr. Campanella?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Paul Campanello, Precinct 6. I think this might go through you to Mrs. Last, but it seems to me this is just really quite simply common sense. It seems to me like regardless or independent of who owns the property, what the future value for it is, whether it's us or the town or the current owner, if there's some, I don't want to say non-conforming in the legal sense, but if there's some underbrush that needs to be cleaned up, to use someone else's words, I can't see a downside to doing this, Mrs. Lass, and I'd like to ask you to see, is there one that I'm missing?
Response, Mrs. Lass?
Thank you. I agree with your comment that the lot is currently non-conforming in this area, and it is smart planning to make this lot conforming for what is going on today as well as what could go on in the future.
Any further questions or comments with respect to Article 9? Yes, ma'am.
Dating Garnett, Precinct 2. I grew up right across the street on Oak Street Terrace, and I'm just wondering, just a follow-up from this woman's comment, what has changed that that driveway is not being used? If it's always been used, we had tractor trailers coming out of there my whole life.
Mrs. Lass?
Thank you. Every day from Monday through Friday, the driveway is allowed to be used. Through the flea market permitting, there was a condition on that permit that the driveway could not be used for flea market purposes on Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays that the flea market is open. So generally, Monday through Friday, any time of day, that driveway is used. And additionally, in the evenings, if it is used Friday, Saturday, Sunday, when the flea market is not in operation.
Further questions, comments? Mr. Campanello? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Hand behind Mr. Campanello. Hand coming out of Mr. Campanello's head.
Thank you. John Medlinskis, Precinct 10. If this does pass, all I ask is if traffic does go into consideration that we work on, helping south side of Shrewsbury and Oak Street with, I don't know, maybe a right turn only or something like that. I just ask that we do take that in consideration if this does pass later down the road. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? There being none, and this motion requiring a 2/3 vote to pass since it involves the amendment of the town's zoning bylaw, we will again proceed according to our town meeting bylaw and try a voice vote first. If there's any doubt as to the sufficiency of the vote, we'll immediately proceed to a standing vote. Would all those in favor of the motion under Article, under Article 9, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying no. And the motion passes by a 2/3 vote. Article 10.
Mr. Moderator, I move the printed motion under Article 10.
Second.
Okay, the printed motion under Article 10 has been moved and seconded that the town authorize the Board of Selectmen to file a petition with the general court as follows, an act relative to affordable housing in the town of Shrewsbury. This is a home rule petition article. Mr. LeBeau.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Town meeting members, the board is asking you to authorize us to put forward a home rule petition, which we've asked you to do in the past, and you have agreed to. The home rule petition has been submitted to the legislature, and it was not, didn't make it to the floor for consideration. The session is closing, and it's not coming up, so we'd like to do it again. Essentially, what we're asking is that the existing manufactured housing, 47 units, be included in the town's count for affordable housing relative to Chapter 40B. The current count is 6.1%. The 47 units will not make a huge increase, but the board believes that the general public would consider manufactured housing to be affordable housing, and that Chapter 40B excludes manufactured housing from the count of affordable housing, only underscores how Chapter 40B has been manipulated to benefit certain special interests at the public's expense. So we ask for your positive consideration.
Finance Committee recommendation, Mr. Masiello.
Finance Committee unanimously recommends approval of this article.
Questions or comments with respect to Article 10? Okay, there being none, and this motion requiring a majority vote to pass, would all those in favor of the printed motion under Article 10 please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying no. And the motion passes unanimously. Article 11, Mr. Kane.
Mr. Moderator, I move the printed motion under Article 11.
Second.
The printed motion under Article 11 has been moved and seconded. This is another home rule petition relating to filing a petition with the general court relative to an act authorizing the Division of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance to convey a certain parcel of land in Shrewsbury to the town of Shrewsbury. Mr. Kane?
Mr. Moderator, town meeting, this follows the same line of thinking that you folks approved and we have been successful with to date regarding the Glavin School. You may recall we have a long-term lease in place for the east and west side of Glavin, and we recently received for the sum of $1, 27 acres on the east side toward Route 9 of the Glavin property. This simply identifies 3 more parcels on Green Street, on the south side of town, currently under the control of the Commonwealth, and given our preference to determine our own future as opposed to the policy whims of the Commonwealth, this asks for your concurrence or approval to file such a bill and seek these 3 parcels. You will note on the plans provided to you in your packet, there are 3 buildings located on the southernmost parcel. We are not seeking them, and in negotiations with the legislature and DCAM, we will seek just as much open land as we can without seeking those properties. They're currently being used, I believe, by the Job Corps Center.
Okay, Finance Committee recommendation, Mr. Masiello.
Finance Committee unanimously recommends approval.
And are there any questions or comments with respect to Article 11? Can't imagine anybody wants to go home, so how about some questions, folks? Okay, there being none, and this motion requiring a majority vote to pass, would all those in favor of the printed motion under Article 11 please signify by saying aye? Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. And the motion passes unanimously. This concludes the business of this special town meeting, and before I ask for a motion to adjourn, I want to thank you all for your attendance, your participation, your respect for one another, and your dedication to the government of our town. Is there a motion to adjourn? Second? All those in favor?
11 for 11.
This special town meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you.
Nicely done, Jim.